In this ninja world, I'm the one in charge now. Uzumaki Naraku. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Orochimaru's Envy. Kakashi stood on the field holding a long sword, and his expression became more serious at this time. Today's Orochimaru's strength has improved dramatically compared to before. The extremely hard corpse bone veins, coupled with his own software modifications, allow him to freely control the softness and hardness of his body. Coupled with that pair of 360-degree white eyes, the two are combined with each other. Looking at the entire ninja world, there are very few people who can compare with Orochimaru's body. It is no exaggeration to say that his strength has far exceeded that of ordinary cage-level experts. Kakashi, who was holding a long sword, had a fighting spirit in his eyes, and he began to get excited. Since the second tail was transplanted into his body and he became a Jinchuriki, he has solved the problem of insufficient chakra. Since then, his strength has made great breakthroughs, but he also has a lot fewer opponents. Although Naraku and Kei will train with him in the village, they are companions after all, and it is impossible for Kakashi to let go and fight them with all his strength. That's why he later went back to travel around the ninja world and challenged several strong men in the 5 great ninja villages. But those strong men are often in high positions, just like Anoki who once defeated him. As the third Tsuchikage, it is impossible for him to fight against him often. Such an opportunity is only once at most points, so at this time, Kakashi had not met a real opponent for a long time, and a strong fighting spirit burst out of him. Similarly, Orochimaru's face also showed a look of madness at this time. This battle was also his first battle. After getting Kimimura's body and Byakugan, he also wanted to see how strong he was now. Fight! The two shouted in unison, and then rushed towards each other at the same time. His body flashed with lightning, his body was like thunder, and his body was like a thunder shadow. Crack, crack. The roaring sound of thunder kept ringing on the field. Under Kakashi's control, the thick thunder quickly gathered on the silver sword in his hand. Before anyone arrived, the sound of thunder was already deafening. Orochimaru stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, and the madness in his eyes became more and more obvious. Kakashi's powerful strength successfully made the militant element in his body boil. Puff, puff. The bone blades protruded from various parts of the body again, and Orochimaru's neck suddenly stretched like a poisonous snake. After circling his neck in the air for a few times, he opened his mouth to reveal the fangs inside and bit Kakashi's neck. Holding the long knife tightly in his right hand, he swung forward with a trembling thunder sound, and the blade pointed directly at Orochimaru's jaw. At this time, a sharp bone blade was in front of him. Kakashi quickly turned around. When the bone blade passed by, Orochimaru's head in the air also avoided the sharp blade. Seeing this, Kakashi did not put away the sword, but continued to exert force, and the long sword turned into a thunder shadow and struck downwards. Stab it. The sword light tore through the air and passed through Orochimaru's left arm. It can be seen that there is a layer of white periosteum covering Orochimaru's left arm, and a burst of sparks flew out when the blade collided with it. The blade fell on Orochimaru's body, but it didn't cause any damage. Kakashi's pupils shrank slightly when he saw this. Then he kicked his feet on the ground and took a quick step back. The collision just occurred between lightning and flint. If ordinary people saw it here, they would only think that two figures touched each other and then quickly distanced themselves. Dance of the Crazy Snake. At this moment, Orochimaru let out a low drink in his mouth and then started to move. His body moved quickly. At this moment, he was like a real poisonous snake. Although he was moving forward in a curve, his speed was extremely fast. Call out. In just an instant, he was in front of Kakashi. The sharp bone blade tore through the air and stabbed straight into his chest. Blue light surged around his body, and densely surrounding thunder and lightning appeared on Kakashi's body. A silver short blade appeared on Kakashi's left hand, and blue light instantly wrapped around it. Clang. Kakashi, who held his left hand across his chest and used the silver short blade to block the bone blade attack, did not stop, and his right hand holding the long sword instantly exerted force. Thunder slash. Dense. Thunder and lightning flashed out, and a sword light formed by the convergence of thunder and lightning burst out from the long sword and struck hard at Orochimaru's body in front. This sword light gathered a large amount of thunder and lightning power. If it hit Orochimaru, he would definitely not be unharmed. But at this moment, Orochimaru's waist twisted strangely, and his whole body lay on the ground like a gecko, and the thunder and lightning sword's offensive failed. At the same time, its arm quickly extended and stabbed forward with a sharp bone blade. Facing the sharp bone blade, Kakashi did not dare to resist. He swung the long knife in his right hand quickly, blocking the bone blade attack, and at the same time, a silver short blade wrapped in blue lightning stabbed straight forward. The next moment, Kakashi formed a seal with his left hand. Shuriken. Shadow clone jutsu. Call out, call out, call out. In an instant, hundreds of sounds pierced the air, and hundreds of silver short blades appeared in front of him, falling towards Orochimaru at the same time. In response, Orochimaru raised his hands and began to form seals quickly, and then opened his mouth to spit out a violent blast of wind. Wind escape, a big breakthrough. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, a large piece of white smoke appeared, and the silver short blade hit by the strong wind dissipated directly. But at this time, Orochimaru's alarm bell rang in his heart. Without hesitation, he immediately activated the energy in his body, and a layer of white peristeum slowly emerged around his body. Kai. The next moment, a lightning blade ripped through the air and appeared behind him. However, due to the protection of the peristeum and his flexible movement, Orochimaru did not suffer much damage. Only a small red mark appeared on the clothes on his back. Hiss. After being attacked, Orochimaru's body softened again. He flashed, and with his neck stretched out, he was about to bite Kakashi, but the next moment, he stopped. Because Kakashi suddenly disappeared in front of him. Is it the Flying Thunder God's technique? Veins appeared around his eyes. After Orochimaru opened his Byakugan and scanned the surroundings carefully, he did not find any strange energy. He knew that Kakashi used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave here. The time and space ninjutsu is really enviable, Orochimaru murmured in his mouth. There was an imperceptible helplessness on his face. Although his strength has increased a lot now, and he even has the 2 blood inheritance limits of Corpse Vein and Byakugan, but for Kakashi who can master the time and space ninjutsu, he was still a little envious after all. In today's ninja world, there is no way to restrain the space ninjutsu, so even if Kakashi encounters a stronger enemy than himself, he can use the Flying Thunder God to teleport to a safe place. However, Orochimaru did not relax his vigilance at this time. He did not think that Kakashi would leave easily today. Chapter 302 Orochimaru's Sage Mode. Swish. The fact was just as Orochimaru expected, but just a few seconds later, Kakashi's figure flashed out again and launched a fierce offensive towards him. This time, Kakashi no longer chose a frontal attack, but relied on the high-speed dynamic vision of the Sharingan ability of the Flying Thunder God to launch high-frequency quick attacks. Although Orochimaru resisted with all his strength, he was still suppressed by Kakashi. Every time he was about to cause damage to him, the opponent would use Flying Thunder God to escape from here. Then he quickly returned and launched a fierce attack on him. At this time, Orochimaru was a little confused. In his impression, using the Flying Thunder God technique requires forming a seal. At this time, Kakashi had already used the Flying Thunder God many times in front of him, and he had not yet formed a seal. A hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Flying Thunder God was a top ninjutsu as a time and space ninjutsu, but now it has become a Muji ninjutsu. Orochimaru was even more shocked by Kakashi's talent. In fact, Orochimaru guessed this wrong. Although Kakashi can now use Flying Thunder God without seal, the method was not thought up by him, but by Naraku. But there was one thing that Kakashi couldn't figure out, and that was why Naraku had been unable to master the Flying Thunder God, even though Naraku's training talent was obviously no worse than him. Kakashi was very confused about this. On the field, after Kakashi used Flying Thunder God to fight, Orochimaru was obviously at a disadvantage. Thunderball explosion. After approaching Orochimaru again, Kakashi stretched out his right hand, and lightning gathered on his hand. In an instant, a thunderball the size of a human head appeared in his palm, and then the palm landed directly on Orochimaru's back point moment. Boom. A violent explosion sounded, and Kakashi's figure had already used Flying Thunder God to slip away before that. The explosion of the thunderball set off a huge burst of smoke. After the smoke dissipated, Kakashi's figure returned here. At this time, his eyes fell on the slightly embarrassed figure in front of him. It was Orochimaru. At this time, his upper body was covered in a large area of charred black, and his back was even more bloody. But Kakashi didn't see a trace of pain on his face, as if the injury wasn't his at all. The next moment, a stomach-churning scene appeared. Orochimaru raised his hands, that were extremely burned by the explosion, and tore his mouth open. The next moment, a head came out of his mouth, and then Orochimaru appeared in front of Kakashi intact. Orochimaru Ryu substitution technique. Although it looks a bit disgusting, its effect is very good. Kakashi's eyes trembled slightly. Orochimaru had too many methods, and it was unrealistic to directly deal with him, just by relying on his own words. But even so, Kakashi had no intention of retreating. Even if he couldn't kill Orochimaru here today, he would still try his best to fight. Silver teeth sparkle. It really deserves its reputation. Orochimaru opened his mouth and sneered. A sharp light flashed in his pale pupils, and then he closed his eyes directly. Is it? Seeing him like this, Kakashi's heart was shocked, and then he surged forward without hesitation. He held the knife in his right hand and swiped forward, and instantly a lightning sword shot out. The lightning blade tore through the air and struck hard at Orochimaru's body. Boom. But at this moment, the ground shook violently, and then a huge black bone python emerged from the ground. The black bone python moved extremely fast, and the moment it appeared, it circled its body, and protected Orochimaru in its body. Click, click. The lightning blade struck the black bone python and instantly tore off several thick bones, but Orochimaru was not harmed, because of the protection of the bone python. Kakashi, who failed to hit the target, did not stop. The blue light of the long knife in his hand rose sharply. He jumped up and swung the knife towards the bone python again. The violent thunder and lightning knife light tore through the air and headed towards the bone python. Crack it hard. Next, Kakashi swung his sword continuously, and the bone python also fell to the ground. As the bone python fell, Orochimaru's figure also appeared, but at this time, his body had underwent changes. A pair of golden eyeshadow appeared on the pale pupils, and a pair of antlers-like things grew out of his head. At this moment, Orochimaru's aura was restrained, and the powerful aura disappeared, as if he was just an ordinary person without chakra point. But Kakashi will not treat him as an ordinary person. It is indeed the immortal mode. Kakashi secretly thought in his heart that he had also seen the changes in Orochimaru in Naraku. Although the two were different, they had the same purpose. Kakashi guessed right. Orochimaru was using the Sage mode of Raichi Cave at this time. In this state, his body's all-round strength has increased. Orochimaru's eyes are cold. Now in this state, his strength has once again improved to another level. He feels that even the man with the Eye of God is not his own opponent. Boom. At this moment, a sonic boom sounded, and Orochimaru's body disappeared instantly. Even Kakashi, who had activated his Sharingan, only saw a white shadow flashing by. Without any time to hesitate, he raised his right arm and held the long sword across his chest. But the next moment, he felt his arm go numb, and the long knife almost came out of his hand. At the same time, a foot was kicking towards his chest. Crack. Crack. The thunder armor that was always on appeared instantly when it sensed danger. Boom. A figure flew backwards quickly. It was Kakashi. After breaking two walls one after another, his figure slowly stopped. Swish. But at this moment, Orochimaru had already stepped forward again, with two bone blades extending from his palms, flashing with a sharp cold light. Immortal mode is really powerful. At this moment, Kakashi's murmur sounded on the field, and then he slowly stabilized his figure. Noisy. Blue arcs of electricity surrounded his body, except for his chest, where there was no arc flashing. Although Kakashi's thunder release is not good at defense, Orochimaru can easily break through his defense, which is enough to prove that he has terrifying destructive power in this state. At this time, Kakashi still felt a sharp pain in his chest. Kakashi, This moment, the second-tailed Nakomata's voice sounded in his mind. Well, Nakomata, I might need to borrow more chakra from you. It is good. The next moment, chakra-like blue flame appeared around Kakashi. The slightly collapsed chest slowly recovered. Chapter 303 The combination of fire and thunder. Thunder Dragon Dance. On the field, when a large amount of tailed beast chakra burst out from Kakashi's body, Kakashi clenched the long knife in his hand and let out a low drink point. Then he exerted force with his feet and rushed towards Orochimaru in front of him. At this moment, the blue thunder and lightning on his body and the violent tailed beast chakra combined with each other, and an extremely powerful aura burst out from his body. Then Kakashi gathered all this power on the silver sword in his hand, and the blue light surged for a moment. Even Orochimaru's Byakugan was flashed by this dazzling blue light for a moment. It was at this moment that Kakashi swung out this shocking sword. Boom, boom. At this moment, the lightning wrapped around the blade was like real thunder, making deafening roars. The next moment, violent thunder and lightning burst out from the long knife, forming a dense ball of thunder and lightning. From a distance, this thunder and lightning looked like a real thunder dragon, exuding a formidable power. The next moment, the thunder dragon flicked its tail and rushed towards Orochimaru in an extremely violent manner. Wait a moment, be right back. After Kakashi murmured in his heart, his figure disappeared instantly. Orochimaru's expression changed slightly when he noticed Kakashi's movements. Just when he was about to make a move, the thunder dragon had already rushed to him. The next moment, the blue light on the thunder dragon surged. Boom. A deafening roar sounded, centered here, and the surrounding locations 100 meters were affected by the impact. All the houses collapsed in an instant and turned into ruins. Crack. Crack. In the smoke, thick thunder can be seen raging inside. 10 seconds later, a figure emerged from the smoke, with long white hair and 2 horns. It was Orochimaru. It's just that his face looks a little ugly at this time. Although there doesn't seem to be any scars on his body, if you look closely, you will find that the aura on his body is a bit unstable, and there is an energy emanating from his body from time to time. This energy is magic chakra. He just used a lot of magic chakra to protect himself, otherwise even he would not dare to withstand such an explosion. Orochimaru never expected that Kakashi's sword skills would have grown to this point, surpassing his father, Sakumo, in terms of power. But unlike Kakashi, Sakumo is only good at swordsmanship and lightning escape, and his swordsmanship is relatively pure, unlike Kakashi who likes to explode when nothing happens. Swish. At this moment, the stable space in front suddenly became trembling, and then a slender figure slowly appeared. It was Kakashi. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes at this time. You can see 2 colors of red and blue appearing on Kakashi's body, and at the same time, a hot heat comes from his body. It was as if thunder and fire surrounded him. Orochimaru saw it right. The chakra that surrounded Kaka at this time was a dual attributes of thunder and fire. Crackling. Crackling, the sound of flames and thunder and lightning colliding burst out from him from time to time. Fire thunder is originally the most violent attribute among all chakra attributes, and now the 2 are combined with each other, just like a thug meets a madman. Incomparably violent energy was released from Kakashi's body. If a ninja with average strength saw Kakashi and Orochimaru here, he would definitely think that the former was more powerful. As for the strength of the 2, that can only be known after fighting. Kakashi, I can only help you so much. If you use my chakra, your body will be somewhat damaged. The second-tailed Nakomata's voice sounded. Yes, I understand. Kakashi nodded lightly, and then he looked up at Orochimaru opposite. It's time to end this battle, Orochimaru-sama. The next moment, the 3 black Magatama in the scarlet left eye quickly connected together, forming a black windmill pattern. Then he exerted force with his feet and disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Orochimaru. He raised his right arm, and a broken knife appeared. Then he swung the knife suddenly, and instantly a sword light composed of blue and red energy burst out from the broken knife. The sword light composed of thunder and fire is extremely violent. Before the sword light arrived, Orochimaru had already felt an extremely violent energy. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes, and Kakashi's successive outbursts made Orochimaru become crazy inside. After quickly forming seals with his hands, he shouted, "Immortal magic triple Rashomon." Boom, boom, boom. Instantly the ground began to tremble violently, and then 3 huge iron doors rose from the ground. The iron doors looked like ghostly faces, which looked very penetrating from a distance. Boom. At this time, the red and blue sword light had already hit the first door. In an instant, the door fell into pieces, and the sword light shattered it with absolute power. Then the second door barely held on for a moment, and finally dissipated. Only the third door blocked the sword light point, but in the end, it was shattered together with the sword when it exploded. Swish. At this moment, Kakashi, who was holding a broken sword, appeared in front of Orochimaru. The broken sword slashed through the air and struck straight down. Stab it. In an instant, Orochimaru's body was split in half from the middle and fell to both sides. Kakashi frowned slightly. He didn't feel the broken knife hitting his flesh just now. The next moment, the body split in half by Kakashi turned into 2 broken snakes. Immortal. Method. 10-finger piercing bullet. At this moment, several air-piercing sounds sounded behind Kakashi. Call out. Call out. Call out. It was Orochimaru who took action. At this time, he was standing behind Kakashi. 10 missiles made of finger bones in the air quickly blasted towards Kakashi. With the already hard bones and the increase in Senjutsu, Kakashi's physical defensibility would definitely not be able to withstand this blow. Divine power. But at this moment, a low shout came from Kakashi's mouth, and then he turned his head suddenly, and the power of his pupils burst out from his left eye in an instant. After the smooth space in front rippled, all 10 finger bones were sucked into the divine power space. It's actually another time and space ninjutsu. Looking at Kakashi's left eye, a trace of fear flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, but then it was replaced by a touch of madness. The next moment, an energy superior to chakra burst out from him. At this moment, he exploded all the magic chakra in his body, and he wanted to use this move to end the battle. Immortal. Magic. Corpse bone veins. Dance of dry ferns. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, the 5th level of Rashomon. On the field, Orochimaru's body suddenly began to fall downwards at a high speed, and in the blink of an eye he was already 100 meters underground. Almost at the same time, the ground began to shake violently. The next moment, sharp bone spears sprang out from the ground. There were so many bone spears that they covered this area in the blink of an eye. Boom. He swung his sword and cut off several bone spears in front of him, but the next moment, several more bone spears emerged from the ground. Kakashi's body flashed, constantly dodging the attacks of the bone spear. However, Orochimaru's perception in Sage mode was extremely powerful, and the bone spear could pinpoint his position every time. Kakashi fell into passivity for a while. In fact, he had another option at this time, which was to use the flying thunder god to leave here, but Kakashi didn't want to do that until the last moment. Fire and thunder are 2 extremely violent attributes. Now he can't last long in this state, and once he exits this state, his body will be damaged to a certain extent. By then, he will definitely not be able to fight Orochimaru. Holding the broken sword in his hand, Kakashi's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and then an even more violent aura burst out from him. Boom. The momentum is like a dragon, and the air around it fluctuates like a tide. Fire and thunder dance. The 2 kinds of energy, red and dark blue, converged on the broken knife in his hand. The next moment, Kakashi exerted force on his legs and jumped into the air. Then he swung the knife with his right arm, and instantly a sword light of dozens of feet appeared. Boom. The sword light tore through the air and slashed straight down towards the ground. Click. Boom. Those bone spears that stretched out quickly were directly shattered by the sword light the moment they came into contact with it. The power of the sword light was frightening, tearing the ground apart for hundreds of meters, and it was still falling rapidly downwards. You can actually do this. Under the ground, Orochimaru noticed the sword light that was about to fall, and for a moment, the hair on his body stood up. At this time, Orochimaru's body was covered with hundreds of white bones, and he looked like a hedgehog from a distance point. In this state, his defense power is greatly increased, and coupled with the blessing of magical chakra, ordinary attacks cannot break his defense at all point. But at this time, he had a strong sense of crisis, and without any hesitation, Orochimaru was about to leave here as soon as he moved. Divine power. But at this moment, Kakashi's voice sounded from the ground. Powerful pupils burst out from his left eye, and a line of blood and tears fell down. The next moment, the space at Orochimaru's position suddenly began to twist, and a space vortex visible to the naked eye enveloped him. In an instant, Orochimaru felt a strong suction force coming from the mouth of the whirlpool, as if it was trying to suck him in. His body couldn't move. Orochimaru's expression suddenly changed, and at this moment, the terrifying sword light above his head suddenly fell. Kakashi Hatake, I didn't expect your talent to be so terrifying. Even my nephew is probably not as good as you. Swish, swish. At this moment, two figures suddenly appeared next to Orochimaru. One of them seemed to have some kind of seal on his hand, and then he slapped it on the ground with one hand. Fivefold Rashomon. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, 5 giant iron doors with ghost faces appeared above them out of thin air. The figure standing next to him disappeared in a flash. In just an instant, the space vortex that had been pulling Orochimaru dissipated, and Orochimaru's body resumed movement. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there was a loud noise from above, and 4 of the 5 giant ghost-faced iron doors were broken into pieces, with only the last iron door intact. But at this time, above the ground, water escape. Water rushes into waves. A large amount of water rose from the ground, eventually forming a rapidly rotating water spout. As the water spout rotated rapidly, a large amount of water rushed away in all directions. Ha, ha. At this time, Kakashi was standing on the ground, gasping for air. The explosion just now had almost exhausted all the chakra in his body, and there were waves of severe pain in various parts of his body. Kakashi felt a strong sense of weakness come over him. At this moment, a rich energy appeared in his body again. A look of gratitude showed in Kakashi's eyes, and then chakra surged through his body, and his body began to move quickly, avoiding the impact of the water waves. Swish. Kakashi, whose body flashed continuously, appeared on top of a house that was about to collapse. His eyes fell on the figure standing on top of the water spout. He has silver hair and red eyes, and has 3 red marks on his face. He is wearing a black combat uniform with blue laminated armor on the outside. From a distance, he looks like a handsome young man. But what was different from ordinary people was that there was no sparkle in his eyes, just like a puppet on strings. But at this time, after Kakashi saw this figure, his heart was filled with huge waves. As a native of Konoha, Kakashi is naturally very familiar with this figure. Second Hokage-sama. Kakashi frowned. He never thought that Orochimaru would summon the second Hokage. Now we are in trouble. Kakashi secretly thought in his heart, his face becoming more and more solemn. You must know that the second Hokage is not a being with Danzo's strength. Just now it was just an ordinary water escape ninjutsu, and its power was even comparable to an S-level killing move. Another more important point is that the #1 life-saving ninjutsu in the ninja world, the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, was invented by the second Hokage. Well, suddenly, Kakashi let out a cry of pain, and the severe pain throughout his body became more and more obvious. Kakashi, your body is close to its limit. If you continue to use my chakra, you will turn into a tailed beast, the second tail said with a slightly worried voice. Kakashi nodded upon hearing this. Different from other Jinchuriki, the general Jinchuriki rely on the ability of tailed beasts to enhance their combat power, just like Sarutobi Aikyum, who will transform into tailed beasts at every turn. But Kakashi is different. He will only use the chakra of the 2 tails in his body, and will not transform into a tailed beast. For him, transforming into a tailed beast will not only not enhance his strength, but will even reduce it. After all, the body of the tailed beast is too huge, and Kakashi is good at swordsmanship. It is difficult for him to fully exert the power of his swordsmanship in the state of tailed beast transformation. So under normal circumstances, he would control the amount of tailed beast chakra he used. Today, in order to deal with Orochimaru, He was a little indulgent. Kakashi reached out and pulled down his forehead protector, covering his left eye. Then he raised his head and glanced at the second Hokage in front of him, and his figure disappeared in a flash. This is the art of flying thunder god, and he is a descendant of Konoha. Chapter 305 The Angry Nagato. Despair, despair. Just after Kakashi left, two figures came out of the ground. One of them was Orochimaru. I saw that the aura on his body was weak at this time, and the two horns on his head disappeared. Compared to Kakashi's intense consumption, Orochimaru was in relatively good condition at this time, but there was not much chakra left in his body. The man standing on Orochimaru's body was the same as the second generation Hokage just now. His eyes were dull, and he was obviously reincarnated from the earth. He has long black hair, wears a black tight-fitting combat suit with red layered armor on the outside. An extremely powerful aura was released from this figure. Kakashi, we will meet again. In a hidden location outside Tsunagakure village, a slightly embarrassed figure appeared here. It was Kakashi with long silver hair and a black mask. Kakashi, who appeared here, looked around, and everything he saw was filled with yellow sand. Then he found a more secluded position and began to adjust his body. His physical condition was indeed a bit poor at this time. The explosion of the dual attributes of fire and thunder caused damage to many meridians in his body. In addition, he had just used divine power twice, and his mental power was also somewhat damaged. However, it is not difficult for him as a Jinchuriki to recover from these injuries. The tail beast chakra itself has a certain degree of recovery ability. Under normal circumstances, as long as the Jinchuriki is not dead, the tail beast chakra can recover from his injuries. So Kakashi's injury is nothing, and the second tail will help him heal in a short time. It's just that physical injuries can be healed, but mental injuries are not so easy to recover from. If it weren't for the news that Jiraiya had rushed to Tsunagakure village, Kakashi would have wanted to go back to the village to rest. Kakashi knew that, because of Orochimaru's intervention, it would not be easy to make Tsunagakure village surrender in a short time. Today's Orochimaru himself is powerful, and coupled with the art of reincarnation, Kakashi feels a little troublesome just thinking about it. He originally planned to shock Tsunagakure village today, but unexpectedly, it had the opposite effect. Kakashi can imagine that, now that Tsunagakure village has the protection of Orochimaru, his confidence will definitely increase a lot. It's a bit stressful. At the border of the land of fire, while Kakashi and Orochimaru were fighting fiercely, Naraku also met several acquaintances here. As expected, he's still here. Naraku raised his head and looked at the several figures in front of him. One of them had red hair and a large black robe covering his body. The strangest thing was his pair of purple pupils. The person in front is Nagato, and standing behind him are the immortal duo Hidden and Kakuzu. Naraku was not surprised by Nagato's arrival, as if he had expected it. This is exactly what happened. Naraku knew Nagato very well. When he defeated Pain Six Paths, he deliberately preserved and put away Shiandeo's body in order to lure Nagato over. My legs can stand up now, and first generation cells have been transplanted into my body. Naraku frowned slightly, feeling a familiar aura on Nagato's body. In this ninja world, the first generation cells may be the most powerful healing medicine, especially for Nagato. As he possesses the Uzumaki bloodline, his compatibility with the first generation cells is very high, and he can easily absorb and use them. This is also why Nagato's legs can stand up so quickly. Senior brother, you are here to visit the master in Konoha, Naraku said with a smile to Nagato in front of him. Sure enough, after hearing Naraku's words, a complex color flashed in Nagato's domineering purple Samsara eyes, but it quickly dissipated. Although Jiraiya occupies a very important position in his heart, in order to fulfill Yahiko's last wish, and to pursue true peace, some people have to let go. Therefore, Nagato had already adjusted his mentality before coming to Konoha village, and now even Jiraiya standing in front of him could not stop him from moving forward. Nagato's eyes gradually turned cold, and a frightening aura was released from him. Hidden and Kakuzu behind him looked at each other, and then quickly retreated in perfect harmony. For the two of them, the last scene of being brutally tortured by Naraku still stayed in their minds. They knew very well that a battle of this level was not something they could participate in. After quickly opening a few kilometers away from the two people, a pale figure appeared in front of them. It was Beiju's clone. Then, after the white Zetsu clone whispered to the two of them for a while, Hidden and Kakuzu left here in a flash. Naraku glanced in the direction of the two of them, as if he was aware of it, but he didn't pay too much attention. Turning his head and focusing his gaze on Nagato, Naraku wanted to have a good conversation with him. Uzumaki Naraku, return Yahiko's body to me. At this time, Nagato said with a cold tone. When Naraku heard this, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and then he opened his mouth and spat out 3 words. Why? The main reason why Naraku took away Yahiko's body was because he wanted to have a good conversation with Nagato, who after all was half his senior brother. Although the senior brother is ignorant and arrogant, he even committed murder in the original work. But Naraku still had some sympathy for him, and he also wanted to use the other person's samsara to do something, so he thought of stretching the door to make him realize the reality more clearly. But now he has changed his mind. It was obvious that Nagato would not sit down and have a good conversation with him in his current state, so Naraku decided to teach Jiraiya a lesson for his half-hearted senior brother, Uzumaki. Naraku, you are looking for death. Nagato was also angry at this time. Since Yahiko's death, he who calls himself a god in the name of pain has not encountered anyone who dared to resist his words for a long time, especially after his legs recovered. The arrogance in Nagato's heart became even more obvious. Having been defeated by Naraku last time, he was somewhat dissatisfied with him, and now Naraku is provoking him in person. Nagato became angry instantly. He raised his hand and waved, and a powerful energy burst out from his body. Shinra. Tenseng. In an instant, Naraku felt an irresistible impact on his body, and then his body fell backwards like a cannonball. At the same time, his body organs also felt a strong sense of oppression. Although it is the same move, it is obviously more powerful when used by Nagato himself than when Pain was using the 6 paths. Chapter 306. Thank you, Sister Tsunade. At the border of the Fire Country, 2 figures in black robes crossed the border and entered the land of fire. These 2 people were Kakuzu and Hidden. While Nagato was holding Naraku back, they received orders from the white Zetsu clone and prepared to go to the Leaf Village to do a big thing. The 2 were very fast. Although there were some border guards around them, with their strength, it was very simple to hide in front of these guards. Soon they came to a dense forest in the land of fire, and then, led by the white Zetsu clone, they quickly rushed towards the direction of Konoha village. Opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A look of excitement appeared in the eyes of Beiju's clone. In his opinion, now that Kakashi, Naraku, and Jiraiya are not in the Leaf Village, this time is the best time to take action against the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. Even if Nagato and the others do not come, Zetsu will notify them. Came from the soil. It's just that Nagato happened to have arrived in the land of fire, and it was just right for him to contain Naraku, while Kakuzu and Hidden went to capture the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. As for the 2 geniuses of the Uchiha clan who stayed in Konoha village, other arrangements were definitely made for them. In Konoha village, at this time, Tsunade was still handling matters in the office. Lord Hokage, Lord Dingzer and others have sent word that the borders of the Kingdom of Wind have been controlled. A masked figure spoke to Tsunade Hui at the desk. Kindness. Tsunade nodded slightly at this. Sunagakure village's border defense was not very strong to begin with. Coupled with the help of the 100-person elite led by Kakashi, it was not beyond her expectation to capture the border of the Kingdom of Wind. On the contrary, it would be strange if you couldn't win it. Although she successfully captured the border, Tsunade couldn't be happy at this time. For some reason, a strong uneasiness rose in her heart, as if something was about to happen to someone around her. Kakashi, Jiraiya, or Naraku, or is it? Tsunade frowned slightly, feeling increasingly uneasy. After listening to the man's report, she waved the man to leave first. Then she stood up and stood in front of the windowsill. After thinking for a long time, she slowly spoke. Notify Kushina. Tsunade wanted to say something, but couldn't for the moment. In fact, she wanted Kushina to take Naruto back to the clan and try not to leave there in a short time. But at this time, She was a little unable to speak because it meant that she was putting the two of them under house arrest in disguised form in the name of protection. For Kushina, perhaps her biggest wish is that others can treat Naruto and her as normal people. But Tsunade didn't want to hurt Kushina. But if you don't do this, the two people who are the nine-tailed Jinchuriki are likely to be harmed. Inform Itachi and Kei and ask them to protect Kushina and Naruto and be careful not to disturb them. Tsunade said slowly after careful consideration. This is the best solution she can think of at the moment. Yes, Shisu. In the darkness lowered his head and responded. In fact, even if Tsunade didn't give the order, he still sent people to protect Kushina and Naruto. The current situation is indeed a bit passive for Konoha, but as long as we persist in the past, a rainbow will appear after the rain. Kakashi, Jiraiya, I hope things go smoothly on your end, she thought to herself. Not long after Tsunade's order was given, Kei's figure appeared in a pasture in the village. Here Sasuke and Naruto are performing their third mission after becoming ninjas, looking for the Roncha's lost kitten. Yo. Z. The passion of youth will never dissipate. Today's task is to protect these two little guys. Looking at the two young figures in front of him who were carefully looking for the kittens, Kei opened his mouth to reveal 2 rows of white teeth. Although the two people who were busy looking for the kitten did not notice Kei's arrival, Hang, who was temporarily their teacher, noticed him. In an instant, Hang noticed something abnormal, and a look of worry appeared on her fair face. At this time, a figure also appeared in Konoha Hospital. It was Itachi. Compared to Kei, who was not very good at hiding his figure, Itachi's methods were very clever. Even in a hospital with a large number of people, his whereabouts were not discovered by anyone. Only Kushina, who was sitting in the dean's office, seemed to notice something, with a smile on her face. Thank you, Sister Tsunade. Cloud Ninja Village. Inside the Reikage building, the fourth Reikage sitting in the main seat had a face as cold as frost, and a shadow appeared directly on his already dark face. What kind of crazy thing is Kirigakure Village doing? Why are they leading a large number of ninja troops to station at the border for no reason? Are they provoking me? Kumo Ninja Village. The fourth generation opened his mouth and roared loudly. There are 2 figures standing behind him. The one on the left is a young man with short yellow hair and a handsome face. His name is Nozomi. He is the assistant of the 4th Reikage and is regarded as the 4th Reikage in the Cloud Ninja Village. Left hand. The other person is a man with short white hair, long bangs covering his left eye, and dark skin. Deru, a young man who once regarded Naraku as his rival, was valued by the 4th Reikage in Kirigakure Village because he inherited the Black Thunderbolt of the 3rd Reikage. There is the idea of training him as a successor, and he is regarded as an excellent right hand. The two of them seemed to have gotten used to it. They didn't pay any attention to the roar of the 4th Reikage, and they didn't even raise their eyelids. Bagheera Road, Cooler Road. At this moment, a voice of rapping sounded, and the person who spoke was a man with dark skin, light yellow hair, and sunglasses. He was Kirabi, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki of the Cloud Ninja Village. Brother, why don't you let me take people to shock Kirigakure Village and let them know that I, Cloud Ninja Village, are not easy to mess with? Kirabi said with an expectant look on his face. Asshole, you want to die? When the 4th Reikage heard this, he was instantly furious. He grabbed the teacup on the table and threw it directly in the direction of Kirabi. For his younger brother, he knew very well that what frightened Kirigakure Village was because he just wanted to escape and play. Today's ninja world is in turmoil. With the mysterious Akatsuki organization and the powerful Konoha, it is impossible for him to let Kirabi leave the village easily. Kirabi on the other side caught the teacup flexibly while he was still trying to fight for it. After meeting the angry eyes of the 4th Reikage, he wisely closed his mouth. Ziohachi, it seems that our travel plan is going to go to waste, Kirabi said to Hachibi in a slightly frustrated voice. Chapter 307 The 4th Reikage's concerns and preparing for the meeting. Cloud Ninja Village. Inside the Reikage building. Compare. Your elder brother is right. The mysterious Akatsuki organization is very active in the ninja world now, and they seem to be very interested in tailed beasts, plus there are many masters in Konoha Village. 4. A short time. We'd better stay in the village. It's safer. Yatsuo's voice appeared in Kirabi's mind. Danger. Danger. Zyoba. Are you scared? Calm down, B. Yatsuo said in a slightly persuasive tone. Your elder brother is under a lot of pressure now. You should think about how to help him reduce his pressure. Kirabi fell silent after hearing this. His eyes fell on the free left arm of the fourth Raikage, and a flash of sadness flashed in his eyes. In fact, the reason why he wanted to sneak out of the village was to avenge the fourth Raikage, and go to Konoha village, to find Naraku Uzumaki to avenge his broken arm. This idea came up a few years ago, but he was not strong enough at the time, so he did not take action. But it is different now. Now he can perfectly master the power of the Eight Tails. His strength has surpassed that of his eldest brother, the fourth Raikage, so Kirabi is eager to take revenge. It's just that the more he wanted to go, the tighter the fourth Raikage's supervision over him became. Just like now, he would never attend such a meeting, but the fourth Raikage insisted on keeping an eye on him. Let him be with you all the time, and even send someone to follow him when he goes to the toilet. So Kirabi never got the chance to leave the village. In fact, the fourth Raikage did this to protect him. As someone who had fought against Naraku, he knew very well that, even if Kirabi perfectly controlled the power of the Eight Tails, he would not be Naraku's opponent. The Cloud Ninja village has already lost one of its two tails. He can't possibly put the Eight Tails in danger again, not to mention that the Eight Tails Jinchuriki is still his younger brother. So no matter what, the fourth Raikage will not let Kirabi leave the village. Putting aside Kirabi's question, the fourth Raikage at this time was still thinking about the issue of the ninja army from Kirigakure village appearing on the border under normal circumstances. The country of Thunder, which has the strongest military power among the 5 major countries, would naturally not be afraid of the mere Kirigakure village. If Kirigakure village dares to appear on the border of the land of Thunder, he will directly order the dispatch of troops to Kirigakure village. But the situation is different now. According to the news from the Kingdom of Earth, Konoha village is now sending troops to attack the Kingdom of Wind. As a shadow of a village, the fourth Raikage's brain is not as fiery as his temper. His political awareness is also very keen. The purpose of Konoha village, to unify the ninja world, has long been exposed. If Cloud Ninja village is held back by Kirigakure village at this time and Konoha village successfully captures Sunagakure village, the situation in the ninja world will undergo a huge change. It was obvious that Kirigakure village had already formed an alliance with Konoha village, and its current actions were just to hold him back from Kumo Ninja village. For a time, the fourth Raikage was also caught in a dilemma. If he leads troops to join forces with the Earth Country to attack Konoha village, there is no doubt that Kirigakure village will definitely launch an attack on Kumo Ninja village. While there is no one there. Another point is that the troops are divided into 2 groups. One group goes to attack Konoha village, and the other group stays behind to guard Kumo Ninja village. This can indeed be achieved with the powerful military power of the Kingdom of Thunder, but the fourth Raikage didn't want to do this unless it was absolutely necessary. Today, there are only 2 shadow level powerhouses in the Cloud Ninja village, him and Kirabi. As Kirabi is the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, and this guy has been thinking about going to Konoha village for revenge recently. It is impossible for the fourth Raikage to be separated from him and let him lead a team of people alone. But if there is no shadow level powerhouse to lead them, they will be the first to be at a disadvantage when a war breaks out. Just like if he leaves a 5,000 ninja army to stay in the village, but there is no shadow level strongman to guard it, then these 5,000 ninja army will probably be defeated by the 2,000 ninja army led by Mei Terumi in Kirigakure village. This is not to say that Terumi Mei alone is worth 3,000 ninja troops, but that a cage level powerhouse can easily defeat the confidence of an army. The fourth Raikage knows this very well. Just imagine, if during a war, there is an invincible person on the other side who can kill gods and buddhas, and no one can stop them, then how many people on our side will still have the desire to fight? The fourth Raikage didn't dare to gamble. Lord Raikage, the Iwa Ninja village has arrived at the agreed upon location. Do you want to know when we will set off? A respectful voice came from the darkness. That old guy Noki is quite fast despite his age. As he said that, the fourth Raikage stood up and walked out of the office. Behind him, Nozomi and Eru immediately took a step forward to follow. You also come out with me. Reikage turned to look at Kirabi, just as he was about to walk out of the office. Okay, big brother. Kirabi didn't object, nodded and followed him. After the Eight Tails' persuasion, Kirabi also gave up his plan to take revenge alone. Now he is also aware of the unrest in the ninja world. Brother, I will definitely protect you this time. The Land of Iron, a tall man with a round nose walked into a hotel carrying a wooden box. After checking in, the man stepped into a house. The man who entered the house first turned around and locked the door, and then carefully placed the wooden box behind him on the table. Click. The next moment, the wooden box opened automatically, and then a surprising scene appeared. A short man walked out of the wooden box. Lord, it's Uchiha. The tall man on the side bowed slightly and shouted respectfully. Yes, the short man is none other than the third Uchiha. Anoki. The tall man in front of him is his disciple. Chitu. Because the kingdom of earth and the kingdom of thunder are far apart, they chose to meet in the kingdom of iron, which is between the two countries in the ninja world. The kingdom of iron has always been a very special existence. There are no ninjas in this country, only samurai. Perhaps it is because there are no warriors in the Iron Kingdom, so whenever the 5 major countries need the 5 shadows talks, they will choose the Iron Kingdom as the venue for the talks. At the same time, the leader of each generation of the Iron Kingdom is also the host of the 5 shadows talks. The reason why I chose this place as the meeting place with the Reikage has something to do with it. After all, during the Third Ninja War, the Iwa Ninja village used the human seed tactic to indirectly drag the third Reikage to death. Anoki couldn't guarantee whether the fourth Reikage would sit down and talk with him calmly. That's why I chose the Kingdom of Iron. After all, even if the two of them broke down here, the fourth Reikage would not dare to take action easily. Chapter 308. 6 Paths Gather, Attack and Defense. The border of the Fire Nation. At this time, Nagato and Naraku were already in a tense situation. Invisible auras kept bursting out from the two of them, and the surrounding air visible to the naked eye fluctuated like a tide. Uzumaki Nagato, let me see how far you can go. Naraku secretly thought in his heart, and then took a step forward. His scholar eyes emitted a mysterious light, and the golden 6-pointed star pattern looked very noble. The eternal Mangeki Sharingan stared directly at the pair of purple Rinnegan eyes in front of him, and Naraku's eyes exuded a strong fighting spirit. Without any words, Naraku moved and disappeared instantly. At this moment, Nagato seemed to sense something, and the rippled lines in his eyes trembled slightly. So fast, Nagato could feel that Naraku was now stronger than before, especially in terms of eye power, and even had a tendency to catch up with him. Call out. A vortex of air appeared, and the Rasengan instantly appeared in the palm of his hand, and it shot straight towards Nagato. Upon seeing this, Nagato did not hesitate, stretched out his right hand, and launched the Shinra Tensei again. Boom. The violent repulsion appeared again, and Naraku's body was lifted off again, and then fell directly to the ground. This is what I've been waiting for. But at this moment, Naraku raised the corners of his mouth, and showed a smile. The next moment, the power of his left eye burst out, and he activated Shunkong, and the figure that had fallen to the ground instantly appeared in the air. Call out. The wind attribute chakra in the palm of the right hand moved rapidly, and in an instant, the Rasengan advanced into a Rasen Shuriken. Swinging his right arm, the spiral shuriken ripped through the air and rushed towards Nagato. Nagato watched this scene with indifferent eyes, without any evasive movement. In other words, the speed of the Rasen Shuriken was too fast, and he had no time to dodge it. But the next moment, he stretched out his hands to cover his chest, and a burst of pupil power emitted from his purple reincarnation eyes. Instantly, a strange energy appeared on his hands, and then a surprising scene appeared. The extremely lethal spiral shuriken was directly absorbed by the strange energy. The ability of the hungry ghost. At this time, Nagato stretched out his right hand and pointed at Naraku, and instantly, a burst of white smoke appeared in the space. Then there was a sound of mechanical turbulence, and rocket launchers and various other types of weapons suddenly appeared around Nagato. Boom, boom, boom. For a moment, all kinds of ammunition was shot at Naraku. It's really strange how such a modern weapon could appear in this world. Naraku thought to himself. Call out, call out, call out. The next moment, several thick chains sprang out from Naraku's back. The chains surged quickly and then formed a golden shield in front of Naraku. Point clang, clang, clang. There was a burst of sparks and the bullets struck the shield and set off a huge puff of smoke. Point boom. At this moment, after a loud noise, a plume of grey smoke came out of the rocket launcher. A rocket directly hit the shield and exploded instantly, forming a violent wave of air that spread in all directions. Nagato's black robe was blown away. Point at this moment, a figure suddenly shot out from his right. It was Naraku, and you could see several golden chains behind him. Call out. The chain penetrated the air and rushed towards Nagato like a golden snake. Although Nagato, like Naraku, also has the blood of the Uzumaki clan, he was born in the land of rain and did not have the same conditions as Naraku. He didn't have control over either the Vajra blockade or Kagura's inner eyes. Facing the chain's attack, Nagato's eyes flashed with disdain, his arms shook slightly, and two slender black rods appeared in his hands. Then his body moved flexibly, and after quickly dodging the chain's attack, a black stick stabbed Naraku hard. Point clang. There was a clear sound of metal collision, and Naraku held a black knife to block the black stick's attack. Point noisy, noisy. The next moment, the blue electric light flashed on the black knife, and the black rod was cut off in an instant, and then continued to blast towards Nagato with unabated force. Point at the same time, the chains that Nagato had just dodged appeared around him, blocking all his escape routes. In front of Naraku, who has been using Kaguya as his sparring partner since he was a child, Nagato chose to fight him in close combat, which was undoubtedly the wrong choice, despite the fact that the Rinnegan's observation ability is very detailed. But just because your eyes can see it, doesn't mean your movements can keep up. Perhaps because his legs had just recovered, Nagato's physical skills were not outstanding, at least not enough in front of Naraku. Facing the double attack of chains and black knives, there was no trace of panic in Nagato's purple Samsara eyes. The next moment, Shinra Tensei. Once again, extremely violent repulsive force burst out from Nagato. This time, centered on himself, strong repulsive force appeared all around his body. Point in an instant, the scene just now appeared again, and Naraku's body once again bounced back like a cannonball. Shun. Kang. The left eye's pupil power exploded, and the body disappeared instantly and appeared aside. There was a hint of helplessness in Naraku's eyes, and Nagato, who was now fighting with his own body, initially showed the edge of the Samsara eye point. Although the previous 6 paths of pain were equally powerful, due to their single ability, each path had extremely obvious weaknesses. Just like Shiandeo, although Shinra Shianseng is very powerful, it is not difficult to seize the opportunity to solve it, as long as you master its cooldown time. But this time it was different. Now all the abilities of the 6 paths were gathered into Nagato, and he had almost no weaknesses in both offense and defense. Even if Naraku mastered the information about all the abilities of the Samsara eye, he could not find the opponent's weaknesses for a while. Just when Naraku was thinking about how to defeat Nagato quickly, Nagato formed a mark with his hands and slapped the ground with one hand. Psychic art. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, several huge clouds of smoke appeared. Point a hellhound with 3 heads, a huge chameleon, and a huge rhinoceros. A total of 3 giant psychic beasts appeared on the field. Point in the entire ninja world, except for the 3 holy places. Perhaps the psychic beast summoned by Nagato with the Samsara eye is the strongest. Point each one is a giant psychic beast. Point looking at several giant psychic beasts in front of him, Naraku gave up the idea of summoning Toad Flame after a slight hesitation. Point it's not that he doesn't believe in Toad Yan's strength. Toad Yan, who can compete with 10,000 snakes, cannot possibly defeat these psychic beasts. It's just that, since Myomu Mountain accepted Gaara as his successor, Naraku feels that Myomu Mountain has become more and more mysterious. Although Jiraiya said that Myobakuzen could be trusted unconditionally, Naraku still felt a little uneasy. If possible, Naraku doesn't want to have too much contact with him for the time being, otherwise his information will be exposed. Chapter 309. God is just mediocre. Ibuku, they are just a few beasts. Do you think they can do any harm to me? There was a hint of disdain on Naraku's face, who gave up on the psychic toad flames. The next moment, he raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. Wooden. Escape. The birth of the tree world. Boom. Boom. The ground shook suddenly, and with Naraku as the center, the ground with a radius of tens of meters began to collapse violently. One after another, Thick branches sprang out from the ground, each branch spreading like a dragon dancing in all directions. Go point. Whether it was a hellhound or a rhinoceros, they all disappeared into the sea of trees and were soon entangled in branches like dragons. After a while, they turned into a burst of white smoke and dissipated. Would release. After reaching out and smashing a branch in front of him, Nagato frowned. He didn't expect Naraku to have mastered the wood release ninjutsu. Pointy and Conan left early in the Rain Ninja village, so they didn't see Naraku using wood release to fight Obito. Nagato doesn't know much about the wood release ninjutsu. He only knows from the history of the ninja world that it is an extremely powerful escape technique. The Senju Hashirama, known as the god of ninja, uses wood release. The ripples in Samsara's eyes condensed slightly, and he felt a pressure. But then a chill flashed out of his eyes. Be prepared to accept God's punishment, Uzumaki Naraku. Haha, you call yourself a god? Who gave you the courage? You, who think you are a god, have you really felt the pain of others? Is the path you think in your heart really the right one? Naraku's figure appeared in midair, and under his feet was a thick branch. Point facing Naraku's questioning, Nagato remained calm. You didn't make the choice to question God. Naraku looked disdainful in his eyes at this moment. Nagato was like an average boy, putting aside these ridiculous ideas about claiming to be God and wanting to change the world. The most important thing is that he has taken the wrong path. I'm not qualified. What about Jiraiya sensei? Where's Yahiko? Do you feel that everything you are doing now is really just to fulfill Yahiko's will? After hearing Yahiko's name, a trace of complicated emotions appeared in those indifferent Rin eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Jiraiya sensei told you this. He was a good man, but not a true savior. The future will tell. Nagato's eyes became extremely cold again. Well, it seems that mouth escape failed, Naraku thought to himself. In fact, if possible, Naraku would like to draw Nagato into their camp. As a pure-blooded Uzumaki clan, coupled with his pair of Samsara eyes, Nagato's combat power is very powerful. Even if they meet the future Otsutsuki clan, they are barely able to fight. In addition, Nagato has a good nature, and he is still half of his senior brother. He does not want the other party to go to the path of no return as in the original work. But now it seems that Nagato doesn't want to listen to his preaching. Since you can't listen while standing, prepare to lie down and listen, Naraku thought to himself, then clasped his hands together. Boom. Boom. In an instant, the sea of trees under his feet spread towards Nagato. Almost instantly, several thick branches appeared around him, completely surrounding him. Boom. But the next moment, the branches were broken, and countless sawdust spread around. Nagato's figure appeared, his figure with cold eyes slowly floating towards the air. Point. Boom. At this moment, a strong sense of oppression fell on Naraku, and the huge branches under his feet seemed to be unbearable and gradually became broken. It's gravity. It's another way of expressing Shinra's Shinseng, Naraku thought to himself, and then his eyes fell on Nagato floating in the air. His eyes gradually became serious, and his scarlet right eye exuded a powerful pupil power. The next moment, a cluster of black flames suddenly appeared on Nagato in the air. Black flame thunder. Laugh. The hot flames coupled with the thunder and lightning inside instantly turned Nagato's body into a scorched black mess. Nagato frowned, and then the Hungry Ghost Path's ability was activated, and the black flame was instantly absorbed by it. Even black flame thunder has no effect. Naraku frowned slightly. Nagato, who has the ability of Hungry Ghost Path, can even be said to be unafraid of most ninjutsu attacks, but that's just most of it. Gravity. Let me see if your gravity can suppress this guy. Naraku raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. The next moment, he put his hands together and let out a low drink. Wooden escape. The technique of the wooden man. Above the ground, a big tree that had been crushed by gravity began to grow wildly in an instant, until the last figure nearly 20 meters high appeared on the field. Point. The figure is entirely made of wood, and there is actually a wooden dragon coiled around it. Point. The huge wooden man was so powerful that the gravity that was enough to destroy the sea of trees seemed to have no existence in front of him. The wooden man stood up directly and raised his huge palm to slap Nagato in the air. Nagato's expression changed when he saw this, and he quickly moved into the air without hesitation, finally barely dodging Bakuto's attack. His face looked a little ugly at this time. Nagato did not expect that Naraku's strength would grow so fast. It would be difficult for him to easily defeat Naraku with his current strength alone. Now he only has two major killing moves that he has not used. One is the super large Shinra Tenseng, and the other is the earth exploding sky star. The super large Shinra Tenseng is a group attack with a wide attack range, but the attack power is not that strong. Point of course, ordinary Jonin will die if touched, but it is not so lethal to powerful cage level experts. For a master of Naraku's level, Nagato was even less confident. Using this move will also consume a lot of chakra in his body, and Shinra Tenseng will also fall into a long cooling period. By then, he will be like a piece of fish on the chopping board in front of Naraku. Therefore, Nagato does not consider the super large Shinra Tensei. As for the earth explosion star, it consumes too much like the former. Basically, after using it, he no longer has the ability to protect himself. Regarding the Earth Blast Star, Nagato has not used this jutsu since possessing the Rinnegan. None of the opponents he has faced so far have been able to force him to use this move point, but now that he encountered Naraku, Nagato had to consider whether he needed to use this move. Naraku, who was standing on Bakuto's shoulder, looked up at Nagato in the sky. The six-pointed star pattern in his eyes shone with dazzling golden light. Got nothing. Chapter 310. Nagato's defeat is determined. Raw. On the field, Naraku, who was standing on the wooden man's shoulders, clasped his hands together. The wooden dragon that was clinging to the wooden man suddenly jumped out and rushed straight towards Nagato in the air like a flying dragon. The wooden dragon's body was covered with sharp wooden thorns, shining with a cold light. Facing the wooden dragon's attack, Nagato stretched out his hand and activated his Shuradeo ability. A series of weapons such as rocket launchers appeared again, and the next moment, artillery fire was unleashed. Boom, boom. The rocket bombarded the wooden dragon, and an explosive heat wave swept away. Swish. At this moment, Naraku appeared above Nagato holding a black sword. Noisy. A blue electric arc appeared on the black knife. The next moment, a violent energy was released from Naraku, and a large amount of thunder attribute chakra gathered on the black knife. Thunder slash. In an instant, a lightning blade burst out from the black knife. The blade was completely composed of blue thunder and lightning, and contained incomparable explosive energy. Although Naraku is not particularly good at swordsmanship, he still knows a little bit about where his talent lies. The lightning blade tore through the air and struck directly at Nagato. You are so ignorant. The power of God is beyond your imagination. Upon seeing this, Nagato just stretched out his hands to block the light of the lightning sword. The next moment, the ability of the Hell Realm was activated. In an instant, the thunder and lightning sword light began to slowly dissipate like a person falling into a quagmire. Burst. But at this moment, Naraku slowly spoke out a word. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the lightning sword light that was about to be completely absorbed exploded instantly. The violent thunder attribute energy spread in all directions. Several arcs of electricity fell on Nagato, but they quickly dissipated. Do you think this little trick can hurt me? The cold and ruthless eyes fell on Naraku again. In response, Naraku spoke slowly, opened his mouth and spat out a few words. Be careful. In an instant, Nagato seemed to notice something unusual and turned around to look behind him, but in the end he was a step too late, and a big hand had already slapped him. Boom. Almost instantly, Nagato's body fell rapidly toward the ground like a cannonball. But just when it was about to fall to the ground, a big foot kicked upward again. Boom. A huge force fell on him instantly, and instantly, Nagato felt a sharp pain in his body. At this time, the huge fist above had been waved out, and the target was still him, Shinra Tenseng. Without any hesitation, violent repulsive force once again burst out from his body. In an instant, the tall wooden man fell backwards quickly, as if he had been severely injured, and finally even sat on the ground. This is what I've been waiting for. At this moment, Naraku, who had been prepared for a long time, once again flashed behind Nagato. The 8 thick chains behind him were like 8 dancing golden pythons, dancing to block all Nagato's escape routes. Naraku then struck Nagato straight with his black Sword point at this moment, a trace of panic appeared in Nagato's eyes. You must know that he was using his own body at this time, not Pain's 6 paths. If Naraku stabs his heart here, he will die point. But Nagato is the leader of the Akatsuki after all, and he quickly calmed down. He held the black stick and blocked the attack of the black sword. 5 seconds. As long as he lasts 5 seconds, he can use the Shinrashian's Heng to get out of the current predicament. It seems that you still don't recognize yourself. These eyes have blinded your heart. Naraku shook his head slightly. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes, then the black knife was swung out, and it cut off the black stick in Nagato's hand in just an instant. The next moment, the sharp knife light streaked through the air. Puff. A piece of blood splashed in the air, and a bright red appeared on Nagato's chest, but luckily it was the right chest. Then Naraku quickly kicked out, and the kick with strange force sent his body flying backwards. Quickly. The chain that was originally blocking the back also dodged under Naraku's control. Nagato didn't have much chance to breathe. Just when he landed on the ground and had just stabilized his figure, the power of Naraku's left eye exploded, and he activated Shankan. In an instant, he appeared in front of the opponent again in a flash. Using the same move, he swung the black knife in his hand again. At this time, Nagato had a look of anger on his face, and without any hesitation, he directly launched the Shinra Tensei. In an instant, a huge impact fell on Naraku. This time, the impact was all concentrated on him alone. Naraku felt a much stronger sense of oppression than before. But so what? The moment he felt the impact, Shankan immediately activated. After a burst of space shaking, his figure disappeared in an instant, and he came behind Nagato again. At this time, the true power of Shankan is revealed. He can move any way he looks in an instant. He can play a role that cannot be ignored in battle. In some aspects, he is even more powerful than the Flying Thunder God. How can this be? After seeing that his Shinra Heavenly Sign was easily cracked, Nagato couldn't believe it. You must know that except for the Shinra Heavenly Sign, he has basically no other powerful attack methods. Samsurai. 6 paths of reincarnation. The ability of Heavenly Deo is the strongest. Shinra Shian's Heng, all things and heavenly guides, and earth exploding stars all belong to the abilities of Heavenly Deo. Shura Deo is good at using various weapons, mastering advanced weapons such as rocket launchers and laser cannons that are not of this world. The human path can remove other people's souls and read memories. The animal path is good at psychic arts, and can summon a variety of large psychic beasts. The hungry ghost path can swallow chakra, so it can absorb most ninjutsu attacks. The Hell Realm has the ability to control life and death, and resurrect the dead. Each of the 6 paths has very strong abilities, and any ability can make a person become a strong person. But now Nagato, who possesses all the abilities of the 6 paths, feels an incomparable feeling. He feels that no ability among the 6 paths can change the current situation. Shinra Shian's Heng was easily broken by Naraku, and it could hardly play any role in hurting the enemy. It could only be used to save lives. Today, Nagato is relying on the Shinra Tensei to barely fight Naraku. Basically every time when the cooldown time is up, he will use the Shinra Tensei to resolve the crisis in front of him, but the next moment he will be entangled by Naraku again. Because Hungry Ghost Path can absorb the power of ninjutsu, Naraku basically uses taijutsu and swordsmanship to attack Nagato. Visible to the naked eye, the wounds on Nagato's body began to increase rapidly, and his large black robe gradually became stained with a layer of dark red. Nagato's defeat has been decided. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Earth Explosion Star. Boom. A sonic boom sounded, and Naraku's body was once again bounced away by Shinra Tensei. But even though he was ejected, a smile appeared on Naraku's face. At this time, except for his clothes being blown a little messy, there was almost no other damage to his whole body. But Nagato standing opposite him was completely different. The black robe turned dark red, and wounds appeared on his body one after another. At this time, Nagato looked very embarrassed. It was obvious that by now, the battle between the two of them had been decided. If Naraku thought about it, maybe Nagato would be a corpse now. Normally speaking, Nagato, who has mastered the power of the 6 paths of the Samurai, should not perform so poorly. Even if his strength is not as good as Naraku, he will not be so embarrassed. Naraku wants to say that the ability of the Samurai is very powerful, and each of the 6 powers is a top ability, but because of this, Nagato relies too much on the power of the 6 paths. Over-reliance on the power of 6 paths made him disdain to learn and use other attack methods. Therefore, in the current situation, when the power of 6 paths could not cause harm to Naraku, he fell into passivity. Success is reincarnation. Failure is also reincarnation. Normally speaking, it goes without saying that Nagato, who was spotted by Madara and transplanted with the Samurai, has potential. The mere fact that he is a pure Uzumaki clan bloodline puts him ahead of many people. In fact, when Jiraiya was teaching Nagato and the others, he taught them many ninjutsu, especially Nagato. After the Samurai was implanted into his body, in addition to the power of the 6 paths, he also had 7 chakra attributes in addition to the 5 element of wind, fire, thunder, earth, and water. There are also dual attributes of yin and yang. Therefore, Nagato has a lot of ninjutsu he masters. In the past, he would also use other ninjutsu to fight. But since Yahiko died tragically, and his legs were crippled, his mood has completely changed. He believed that the ninjutsu he learned from Jiraiya could not change anything at all, and could not protect his companions at the same time. At that moment, he truly awakened the power of the Samurai, summoned the heretic demon, killed Sancho Hanzo, known as the demigod, replaced Yahiko as the leader of Akatsuki, and was called the true god. Then, under the step-by-step guidance of Zetsu and Obito, we reached this point. Looking at Nagato's life, it is undoubtedly very sad. He who thinks he has inherited Yahiko's will is just like Obito, and is treated like a pawn. Even if you have the strongest eyes in the ninja world, you still can't see all this clearly. See? Clearly, it is you people who have been deceived. How can you, who was born in Konoha village, the head of the 5 major countries, understand the sorrow of a small country? Every war between the 5 major countries will spread to the entire ninja world. Do you know how many people will be displaced because of losing their families? How many innocent people will die tragically in the war? That's why I want to change the ninja world and bring true peace to the entire ninja world. Perhaps stimulated by Naraku's words, Nagato shouted loudly, with a hint of madness in his eyes. Naraku shook his head slightly when he saw this. In his opinion, Nagato's wrong thoughts have been deeply rooted in his bones, and it will be difficult to change them in a while. After all, Naruto still had to do things like mouth release. Let you feel the pain of God, Nagato. Let out a low drink, and then he jumped up and stood high in the sky. The next moment, powerful eye power was released from Nagato's eyes, and a strong sense of pressure fell on Naraku. Naraku frowned slightly. He had already guessed what Nagato wanted to do at this time. The Earth Blast Star is known as the most powerful sealing technique in the ninja world. It is a ninjutsu that can only be used by the Rinnegan. Let me see it. There was a hint of excitement in Naraku's eyes, and a strong fighting spirit burst out of him. Earth Explosion Sky Star. At this time, Nagato stood in the air with his hands clasped together and let out a loud shout. A large amount of chakra and eye power burst out from his body and then gathered into a black sphere above him. Call out. The black sphere moved quickly and turned into a black light, putting a certain distance between it and Nagato. Next moment, boom. Boom. With Naraku as the center, the ground within a few hundred meters began to shake violently. Boom. Boom. Huge cracks appeared on the ground. As the earth shattered, huge boulders flew into the air and converged with the black ball. At the same time, Naraku also felt a strong suction. You can see that his whole body is flowing with light blue light at this time, and chakra is attached to his whole body. Even so, Naraku still feels a little strenuous, as if he will die in the next moment. It will be like being sucked away. In the sky, a huge rock sphere has been formed, and huge rocks are constantly gathering in at the suction force that Naraku felt on his body became more and more obvious in the scholar eyes. The golden 6-pointed star pattern exuded dazzling brilliance. The next moment, powerful pupil power burst out from the eyes in an instant. A dazzling golden light appeared on Naraku's body. The golden light became stronger and stronger, and then formed waves of dazzling golden energy. The aura of the golden energy burst out seemed to dissipate the strong suction force. However, Naraku knew that this was just an illusion. Facing the Earth explosion star, which was known as the most powerful sealing technique, he did not dare to be careless at all. After all, if he was accidentally sealed inside, it would be the end. The eye power continued to explode, like ocean waves. Endless golden energy surged out of his body, and then quickly formed a golden skeleton around him. But this is not the end. The massive amount of golden energy is quickly filled, causing the skeleton to quickly turn into a skeleton. Then the flesh and blood appear, and the golden armor is draped around it. From a distance, it looks noble, powerful, and full of momentum. The golden Susanu's body continued to expand until he was nearly 100 meters tall, before he stopped. 100 meter Susanoo looks terrifying and powerful, like a golden giant war god, making people worship him. At this time, Naraku was standing on the forehead of golden Susan, and he looked up at the rock sphere in the sky. At this time, after such a long period of absorption, the diameter of the sphere is close to 100 meters, and it seems to have the momentum to push away thousands of miles of clouds and block out the sky and the sun. Boom. 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 Around Naraku, a large number of boulders continued to float towards the air, and the huge sphere in the sky continued to expand. At this time, Naraku could feel that the suction force was getting stronger and stronger. Without Susan, he would definitely not be able to hold on by himself. His eyes fell on the huge sphere, and a sharp light flashed from his eyes, and then Naraku made an astonishing move. Chapter 312. Kill one enemy, self-loss is 0. Then, what is that? At the border of the land of fire, Hinata Fiu, who was patrolling the surroundings, looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. A golden giant hundreds of meters high, and a rocky sphere above the giant's head that blocks out the sky and the sun. Hinata Fiu rubbed his eyes in disbelief. At this time, he felt that there was something wrong with his Byakugan, otherwise how could he see this scene? Fiu, we have received a message from Mr. Luli, asking us to return to the camp immediately and not to go near that area, said a man wearing sunglasses and a hooded coat that completely covered himself. His words instantly awakened Hinata Fiu. Although he was still very curious about who could create such a powerful formation, Fiu knew his strength very well. In order to save his life, he and his companions left here quickly. At the same time, Nerashikiri, who was in the camp, frowned slightly and looked helpless. Uzumaki Naraku, I didn't expect a young man to have grown to this point, he thought to himself. Shikari is the border chief appointed by Tsunade. Because of Shikaku's relationship, Tsunade has great trust in the Naraku clan, so Shikari is relatively clear about some things. In addition, Naraku had just asked a shadow clone to deliver the news to him, so he knew that the shocking movement in the distance was caused by Naraku. That's why Shikari gave such instructions. We must win this battle. Luli secretly thought in his heart. He knew that the final success of Konoha Village's move to unify the ninja world depends on the rising stars Naraku and Kakashi. At the border, the 100-meter tall golden Susan stretched out two huge arms. The next moment, golden energy surged out crazily, and two golden swords nearly 50 meters long appeared in Susan's hands. Then he jumped up, and his huge body rushed straight towards the huge rock sphere in the sky. Ignorant people, the majesty of God cannot be offended, Nagato said with a hint of disdain on his face. He thought Naraku's move was just a sheep in the tiger's mouth. It was just Susanoo who was 100 meters tall. It was not like he had never seen it before. Massive amounts of chakra and eye power surged out of his body crazily, and then the suction of the rock sphere became even stronger. This is just what I want. The corners of Susanu's Naraku's mouth were slightly raised, and his scarlet eyes were full of excitement. Although the Earth Blast Star is very powerful, it can even seal away the mother of the Sage of Six Paths, Otsutsuki Kaguya. But it is obvious that Nagato cannot exert such power at this time. Naraku probably expected that with Nagato's current strength, he can only expand the diameter of the rock sphere to 200 meters at most. That should be Nagato's limit. This level of Earth explosion star does not pose much of a threat to Naraku today. Isn't it just a bigger stone? If it is broken, it will be fine. Naraku thought in his heart. The next moment, he closed his eyes slightly, and when he opened them again, fiery red patterns appeared on his face. In an instant, the chakra on his body surged. Crack. Crack. A blue electric arc instantly appeared around Naraku and quickly spread towards the golden Susan point as Naraku continued to increase his chakra output. A large amount of thunder attribute chakra burst out from his body. Until the end, the two golden giant swords in Susan's hands were completely covered by a layer of blue light. Crackling. Crackling, there was a roar of thunder and lightning. Boom, boom. The next moment, the golden light on the golden Susan's back flashed, and then two huge wings formed by the gathering of golden energy appeared. The wings flapped, and golden Susan's speed increased a bit again, and he was already under the rock sphere in the blink of an eye. Boom, boom. Without any hesitation, the golden Susanoo exerted force with both arms, and the two giant thunder swords tore through the space and slammed into the rock sphere. Instantly, violent vibrations resounded on the field. Susanoo's power coupled with the violent power of thunder and lightning, the two powers combined together instantly shattered the huge sphere into pieces. Drink. Without hesitation, a large amount of thunder attribute chakra continued to pour out of Naraku's body. The golden Susanoo held the sword in both hands and waved it wildly. Boom, boom, boom. With Naraku's explosion, one stone after another fell off the rock sphere. Naraku had already opened Kaguya's inner eye and looked around. Except for him and Nagato, there was no one else here, so Naraku just let the boulders fall. How can this be? When Nagato on the side saw this scene, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Earth Explosion Star was already the most powerful move he could perform, but even this move was broken by Naraku. For a moment, Nagato felt a deep sense of frustration in his heart. The next moment, because the chakra in his body had been overloaded, coupled with the side effects caused by the continuous use of the Rinnegan, Nagato's body could no longer hold on, and his figure quickly fell from the air downwards. Boom, 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 in the air, as Susan continued to exert force, and the rock sphere lost the support of Nagato's eye power. It soon turned into countless boulders and fell downwards. Looking at the countless boulders floating in the air and the cracked earth, a sharp light flashed in Naraku's eyes. Then the golden Susanoo stretched out his hands and put the two giant thunder swords together. Crack. Crack. The next moment, a dark blue giant spear appeared in the hands of golden Susan. The spear was completely composed of thunder attribute chakra, and a strong sense of explosion burst out from the spear. Then Susan, who was holding the thunder gun, suddenly exerted force and instantly threw the thunder gun downwards. Cover your ears, Naraku murmured, and then his eyes fell on the figure falling downwards. Boom, boom. The next moment, deafening explosions sounded, and the giant thunder spear exploded in the air instantly. Almost instantly, streaks of white light appeared in the sky, and then a large mushroom cloud-like thing appeared in this area. The thunder attribute is extremely violent, and if it is detonated, the power will be unimaginable. Detonating thunder and lightning was a move he and Kakashi came up with together. Detonating chakra would kill 1,000 enemies and cause 800 damage to others, but for the two of them, it would kill one enemy. 1,000, a move with zero self-damage. The self-destruction of the lightning spear shattered all the boulders in the sky, and some even turned into ashes at this time. Naraku and Susanoo's figures appeared on the ground, and several weak arcs of electricity could be seen flashing on the golden Susan's body. Chapter 313. The Eye of Reincarnation was taken away. The truth. At the border. As Naraku knocked down the huge rock sphere, the battle between him and Nagato came to an end. Looking at Nagato, who was unconscious on the ground, Naraku's eyes showed a complicated look. At first, he wanted Nagato to join their camp, but now that the other party's wrong thoughts have penetrated his mind, it would be difficult for Naraku to change his will in a short while. In this case, I can only seal your eyes first, Naraku murmured softly, and then a black chain stretched out from his back, and then the chain slowly wrapped around Nagato on the ground, until the chain finally wrapped around his head, and after a wave of chakra, Naraku took back the chain. In Nagato's eyes, a black warlock slowly sank into his pupils. Cool. After finishing all this, Naraku breathed a sigh of relief, and then closed his eyes slightly. When he opened his eyes, the scarlet eyes had disappeared, and the golden Susanoo disappeared with them. A faint feeling of exhaustion rose up in Naraku's body. After using Shunki many times in succession, coupled with the explosion of full body Susanoo, and the extraction of most of the chakra from his body, Naraku's condition at this time was not very good. After all, he had just obtained the eternal Manjaki Sharingan, and he was not very proficient in controlling the complete Susanoo, so it consumed a lot of energy and chakra. Naraku didn't pay too much attention to this. With his talent, this won't happen the next time he uses Susanoo. At this time, Naraku felt that his strength had surpassed Kakashi. Although the opponent had mastered the Flying Thunder God, he also had the Shunku to compete with him. Compared to the Flying Thunder God, he needed to leave a mark before he could transfer. Shunkura, who can move wherever he can see, is undoubtedly more powerful. The next step is to leave for Sand Hidden Village, Naraku thought to himself. Then he looked down at Nagato lying on the ground. After a slight hesitation, he decided to let him go. He believed that Nagato would figure something out after this battle. At that time, he will naturally help him unlock the seal of the Samurai. Then Naraku turned around and left here, rushing towards Asunagakure village in a flash. Due to the special physique of the Uzumaki clan and the magic of Shigao forest, the chakra and eye power consumed by him will be restored in a short time. After walking a few kilometers, Naraku seemed to have thought of something, and finally formed a mark with one hand. Shadow clone technique. Boom, boom. A burst of white mist appeared, and then two shadow clones appeared on the field. Without any words, the shadow clones who were connected to their minds turned around and left here. After the shadow clone left, Naraku's body no longer hesitated and moved quickly towards the kingdom of Wind. At this time, at the border, not long after Naraku left here, a figure enveloped by a giant pitcher plant appeared here. Absolutely. To be defeated by Uzumaki Naraku so easily, this guy's really a waste. A disdainful voice came from Black's mouth. Uzumaki Naraku has grown so fast. Beizetsu's voice sounded. He knew Nagato's strength. Although Nagato could not fully exert the power of the Rinnegan, his strength was far beyond the average cage level. Even so, he was defeated. From this, Beizetsu infers that Naraku's strength is now beyond imagination, and even Obito may not be able to defeat him. Thinking of this, Zetsu's face looked a little ugly, and then he looked down at Nagato, who was still awake on the ground, with a sharp light flashing in his eyes. Since you can't do it, then these eyes don't belong to you anymore. Zetsu walked up to Nagato. Then several white Zetsu clones emerged from the ground, and they all pressed down Nagato's body with their hands. Next moment, puff, a red blood splashed out, followed by a scream. What? Nagato, who was lying on the ground, opened his mouth and let out a painful roar. He was struggling in pain, but now he had just gone through a big battle. He had very little chakra left, and his body was extremely weak. He was unable to break away from Beizetsu's grasp bondage. At this time, you can see that 2 lines of blood fell from Nagato's eyes, and Zetsu's hands are holding an eyeball leech, which is the Rinnegan eye. For Zetsu, Nagato was originally just a chess piece he found, and its biggest function was to resurrect that person one day in the future. Without Uzumaki Naraku and Obito's changes, it would have been possible to carry out the original plan, even if Nagato was weaker. But now he has to change his plan slightly. After all, Obito and Konoha are both powerful now, especially Obito. If he knows that he wants to resurrect Madara, both parties will definitely turn against each other. Looking at it now, Obito's strength can definitely prevent him from resurrecting Madara, so he must first take the reincarnation eye into his own hands. In addition, now that Nagato has been defeated by Uzumaki Naraku, it will be very dangerous if the Rinnegan eye continues to be placed on Nagato. After millennia of planning, he never wanted any risks to occur. Ju, it's you. At this moment, Nagato's voice reached his ears. At this time, Nagato had stopped struggling, and the blood and tears that had been flowing in his eyes had also stopped. At this time, Nagato could even think with his toes that his eyes had been taken away, and from the familiar aura on Zetsu's body, he guessed the other party's identity. Why do you want to rob me of my eyes? Not everyone can control the Samurai, Nagato asked with a questioning tone. Ju sneered at this. Robbing your eyes? You are thinking too much. I originally installed these eyes for you. Now, isn't it natural for me to take them out? Do you really think that with the Whirlpool bloodline, you can awaken the Samsara eye? Perhaps. He thought that Nagato, who had lost his reincarnation eye, was no longer a threat, so he told the truth. Zetsu's words instantly shocked Nagato, and he couldn't believe it. Then, my parents did not die at the hands of ninjas from Konoha village, he asked tentatively. It was our plan to kill your parents and put the blame on the Leaf Village. It was to make you hate the Leaf Village. Zetsu continued. I just didn't expect that Jiraiya guy later to make you give up your hatred for the Leaf Village. It even changed your mind, but fortunately, a man named Yahiko appeared later. That guy was also a stubborn fool. If he had chosen to submit to us at that time, how could he have died? But fortunately, his death brought about your awakening and allowed you to walk into the darkness. Chapter 314. You still have a chance to redeem your sins in the future. This is the truth. My parents, Yahiko, and those companions who died tragically at the hands of Hanzo, they all died because I was chosen. After hearing all the truth from Ju's mouth, Nagato's heart was completely broken. He never thought that the people he cared about most would all die because of him, and even the goals he had worked hard to achieve for so many years were just used as pawns by others at this moment. Nagato was severely hit, whether it was his conscience or his self-esteem. He tried hard to open his eyes, trying to see the enemy in front of him clearly, but his empty pupils brought him only endless darkness. Gradually, the aura on Nagato's body became weaker. At this time, he only felt that his existence was a scourge, an evil star that killed everyone around him. He, as a chess piece, you have no value now. All worthless chess pieces must be cleared away. So, go to hell. As he spoke, a sharp light flashed across Ju's face, and then he raised his hand to make several marks. The next moment he stretched out his arm, and in an instant, his pale arm turned into several sharp wooden strips. Wow. Wow. The wooden stick rushed towards Nagato quickly. Nagato was extremely weak at this time, and there were several white Zetsu clones pressing down on his body. Even if he sensed the danger, he could not avoid it. King Khan blockade. At this moment, a low shout suddenly sounded, and then several golden chains tore through the air and sprang out from behind Zetsu like golden snakes. The chains seemed to be equipped with positioning, and directly and accurately turned into a shield to block Nagato. In front of you, point boom, the sharp wooden strips hit the shield, making a violent trembling sound. The shield, visible to the naked eye, began to shake violently, but in the end it blocked the attack of the wooden strips. Swish. At the same time, a figure sprang out from the side and appeared in front of Nagato. It had short red hair and was Naraku's shadow clone. The shadow clone didn't expect that. He just wanted to rush to Konoha village to report information to Tsunade, but he saw this scene that was going to kill Nagato. In line with the friendship between teachers and fellow disciples, and because he originally wanted to win over Nagato, the shadow clone came to help. Spiral pills. The shadow clone that appeared next to Nagato squatted on the ground, turned around quickly, and the light blue ball of light in his right hand rotated rapidly. Point boom. The Rasengan landed heavily on the white Zetsu clones who controlled Nagato's body. With the impact of the rotation of the body, this move knocked all the white Zetsu clones aside. Call out. Call out. At the same time, two chains separated from the shield and wrapped around Nagato's body. Finally, the two chains formed something like a protective shield, wrapping Nagato's body tightly. Uzumaki Naraku. No, it's just a shadow clone. At this time, Zetsu also recognized Naraku's identity. With his powerful perception, he could tell at a glance that the person in front of him was just a shadow clone. If it were your true form, I might still be wary, but you're just a shadow clone, so don't try to ruin my good deeds, Ju said with a look of disdain. Then he raised his hand and began to form seals quickly. The wood escapes, the tree binds forever. Call out, Kai, Kai. Just when he was about to attack the shadow clone took action first. Rasen. Shuriken. There were sounds of the air shattering, and a huge shuriken made of wind attribute chakra appeared in the palm of the shadow clone. Boom. The next moment, the shadow clone suddenly swung forward, and instantly the shuriken tore through the air and rushed straight in Zetsu's direction point without any hesitation. Ju immediately stopped what he was doing and quickly dived underground. Even after hiding underground, Ju did not give up completely. He was still moving quickly under the ground. He didn't expect that just a shadow clone could be so strong. Although he felt a little reluctant due to the pressure brought by Naraku, Zetsu left here quickly. After all, his goal had been achieved, and the Samurai was in his hand. As for Nagato, he is just a useless person without the reincarnation eye. His life and death without any value is not that important. I'll let you dance around for a while longer. Regarding Ju's escape, the shadow clone ignored it. If he wanted to, he could notify the main body at this time and let him come over. By then, Ju would not be able to escape, no matter what point. But the shadow clone didn't heed to that point. He also had some expectations for what he wanted to accomplish. Uchiha Madara and Kaguya Otsutsume also wanted to see the dancing of these people. Especially Kaguya Otsutsume. Only if he has truly seen the strength of this clan will he be more confident when facing the invasion of Otsutsume in the future. After confirming that Zetsu had completely left, the shadow clone turned his head and set his sights on Nagato. Especially when he saw the other person's empty eyes, his eyes trembled slightly. Because of the rush of time, he only saw Zetsu preparing to kill Nagato when he arrived, so he didn't notice that Nagato's eyes had been taken away. Maybe this is not a bad thing for you, Naraku said after thinking briefly. He guessed that, since Zetsu had taken away Nagato's eyes, Nagato should have been able to think of some things. This saves him from having to say anything more. Why do you want to save me? At this moment, Nagato's weak voice sounded. You still have a chance to redeem your sins in the future. Then, the shadow clone took Nagato towards the direction of Konoha village. On the other side, another shadow clone of Naraku has also arrived at the border camp. He is here to inform Shikari that their battle is over. Iwa Ninja village, near that Tsuchikage building. In a hidden location, a Beiju clone slowly rose from the ground, and you could see a look of surprise on his face. Nagato was defeated by Uzumaki Naraku, but, fortunately, the main body took back the Samurai, Beiju's clone said secretly in his heart. In this case, it seems that the plan will be implemented. Beiju's clone showed a smile on his face. It's getting more and more interesting. Then his body slowly dived underground, and when he emerged, he had arrived in a hidden cave, where there were dozens of white Ju clones and a familiar figure. He has short brown hair and wears a black combat uniform. He is the fourth Kazakage Rasa who was controlled by Zetsu. It's just that Ilyusha looks very strange at this time. He is surrounded by Beiju clones, and some white liquid is gathering towards Ilyusha. Maybe we need to find that person. Chapter 315 Tsunede's uneasiness. The back mountain of Konoha, two figures in black robes, led by a white clone, arrived here. In the Akatsuki organization, although Zetsu's frontal combat strength is not strong, he possesses extremely powerful perception capabilities and an unknown number of clones. These clones, like his true body, will not disappear easily, and are difficult to be discovered. Moreover, Beiju clones also have a powerful ability. That is the transformation technique. Except for some special pupil techniques and fairy chakra, it is difficult to discover Beiju's transformation technique by ordinary means. This gave him the opportunity to confuse the fake with the real thing, and it was definitely by relying on these clones that he could master the intelligence of the 5 major countries. For Konoha village, this place is the focus of attention, but because Konoha village has various sealing techniques and barriers left by the Uzumaki clan, it is more difficult to sneak in silently than other ninja villages. As we all know, the wife of the first Hokage is Uzumaki Mito, who is not only the first 9-tailed Jinchuriki, but also a powerful ninja who is good at various sealing techniques. The sealing techniques and sensory ninjutsu mastered by Kushina and Minato were basically passed on to them by Uzumaki Mito. It is precisely because of Uzumaki Mito that various powerful barriers were set up in Konoha village during its construction. Especially at the entrance of Konoha village, where there are many barriers, it is impossible for even a shadow level expert to sneak in quietly. In addition, Naraku and Kushina later joined forces to strengthen the barrier, so the defense level of Konoha village is the highest among the 5 ninja villages. facing that powerful barrier. Although the white Zetsu clone did not dare to make any mistakes, he found another shortcut and found a passage to lurk into Konoha village from another direction. It is the mountain behind Konoha Point for some unknown reason. There is no barrier set up in this area of Konoha's back mountain, not even a guard. So this area has become the weakest point in Konoha village. Kindness. Just when the three of them were about to cross the back mountain and enter Konoha village, the figure of the white Zetsu clone suddenly paused, but quickly recovered. I have taken the reincarnation eye back from Nagato. The white Zetsu clone secretly thought in his heart, and then quietly entered the Leaf Village with Kakuzu and the others. Soon after entering Konoha village, their speed slowed down. After all, they were the most powerful existences among the 5 major kingdoms. Even though at this time, 5,000 ninjas in the village had been dispatched to the kingdom of Wind Point, but there are still many Jun invisible in the village. This is the village that man built. The prosperity here is as admirable and desirable as his strength. Kakuzu secretly thought to himself that the prosperous Konoha reminded him of that godlike man. The reason why Kakuzu became a rebel ninja had a certain relationship with that person, and that person was the first Hokage. He had received the mission assigned to him by the village to assassinate the first Hokage point. If the first Hokage hadn't kept his hand, he would have become a dead man. When the final mission failed, he had no choice but to leave the village and become a rebel ninja in order to survive. Point. Because the white Zetsu clone had already found out the whereabouts of the 9-tailed Jinchuriki in advance, it didn't take the 3 of them long to reach their destination point, Konoha Hospital. Point. Regarding the fact that the Kyuubi was separated and sealed, the white Zetsu clone only found out later. Although he was surprised, he didn't think much about it. He just needed the Kyuubi's chakra to make the 10 tails appear in the world. As for half or one, the difference is not very big to them. So he chose to have Kakuzu and Hidden attack one of them at the same time, which would have a better chance of winning. The reason why he chose Kushina was mainly because the white Zetsu clone felt that Kushina's body would be stronger as an adult. If he chose the child, he was afraid that Hidden would accidentally kill the Jinchuriki. Got killed. That would be more of a loss than a gain. Inside the Hokage's office, swish, a figure suddenly appeared in the darkness behind Tsunade, who was lowering his head to deal with documents. The figure was dressed in Anbu uniform. Although he was wearing a mask, it could be seen from his barb-like hairstyle that the figure was none other than Tsunade Water. It's already here. Tsunade, who noticed Shizu's arrival, murmured, "Yes, Hokage-sama." Through the barrier set up by Kushina-sama near the hospital, we found 2 people from the Akatsuki organization and a white Zetsu clone. Shizu's voice sounded in the office. The information just now was passed on by his Anbu personnel. Point. Since Naraku returned from the Rain Ninja village last time, he told all the information he knew about the Akatsuki organization, including information about their costumes and characteristics. So Konoha today is no stranger to the Akatsuki organization. Let's go to Konoha Hospital. Tsunade didn't say anything. She stood up and started to walk out of the office, but was stopped by Shizu. "Hokage-sama, although the Akatsuki organization's target is Kushina-sama, there may be some danger if you appear at the scene. The village is currently at war. As Hokage, you must not take risks," Shizu said with a serious face. "Please believe Itachi. He will definitely protect Lord Kushina." After hearing Shizu's words, Tsunade's eyes flashed with hesitation, but in the end she decided to go to the scene. The last time Kushina gave birth, she was absent because of her fear of blood. This time she might be ignoring it anyway. Seeing that his persuasion was fruitless, Shizu had no choice but to give up. Then he and Tsunade left a shadow clone in the office, and the 2 of them left the place in a flash at the same time. On the roof of the Hokage building, Tsunade, who was about to leave for Konoha Hospital, stopped here. She frowned slightly, and for some reason, the uneasiness in her heart became more and more obvious. Normally, now that Kushina is protected by Itachi, coupled with the powerful barriers in the hospital, there will be no problem, even if she faces 2 members of the Akatsuki organization at the same time. After all, the information Naraku brought highlighted the abilities and weaknesses of the members of the Akatsuki organization. With these, Itachi, who has opened the Mangeki Sharingan, cannot be their opponent. So at this time, Tsunade was a little confused as to where the uneasiness in her heart came from. Lord Hokage. Shisu's voice sounded behind her. At this time, Tsunade's frown also relaxed after hearing the sound, and then without hesitation, she turned around and ran away in one direction. Shisu glanced back, a trace of doubt appearing in his sight, but in the end he followed Tsunade. Chapter 316 Give him a chance. After all, he is a genius. Outside Konoha Hospital, it can be seen that the entire hospital has been shrouded in a transparent light shield at this time. This is a special protective barrier that can ensure that things within the barrier are not attacked by ninjutsu, but at most it can only resist at the same time. Attack by two Jounin point outside the hospital. A man wearing a grey vest, a short knife on his back, and a white cat face mask was staring straight ahead point following the man's line of sight. He saw two figures in black robes standing there. One of them had a grey back, lavender eyes, and a ninja forehead protector that had been slashed around his neck. He was hidden, and the person standing next to him was Kakuzu. Damn. Beiju clone, didn't you say we wouldn't be discovered? Kakuzu's face looked a little ugly at this time. Just as the three of them arrived near the hospital, before they could do anything, the masked Anbu officer appeared in front of them. Kakuzu judged from the scarlet eyes of this man that he was a member of the Uchiha clan. The moment this man appeared, he used a very special shuriken throwing technique and a detonating talisman to kill the white Zetsu clone. At this time, Kakuzu noticed something was wrong. He could feel that there were more than a dozen auras around them that were firmly locking on them. Konoha village deserves to be the first of the 5 great ninja villages. Kakuzu secretly thought in his heart that he didn't have any desire to fight. At this time, he already regretted agreeing to the white Zetsu clone to come here to capture the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. However, compared to Kakuzu, Hidden looked completely different at this time. At this time, he looked excited, and his eyes were firmly fixed on the masked person in front of him. However, when his eyes fell on those scarlet eyes, Hidden's body shook unnoticeably. 2 times. Similar eyes reminded him of Naraku, who almost cut his body in half. Regarding Naraku, Hidden knew that with his strength, he would not be able to seek revenge from him, but now he thought of a new way of revenge. The white Zetsu clone revealed the identity of the nine-tailed Jinchuriki to him. Sister, you should feel some pain if you do this. A look of madness flashed in Hidden's eyes, and then he stretched out his hand, and with a bang, a huge scythe appeared in his hand. The sickle has 3 sharp bloody blades, and an iron chain is connected to the tail. It is the bloody march sickle. Ha. Hidden, who was holding the blood sickle in his hand, let out a wild laugh, then kicked his feet on the ground, and his whole body exploded forward. Be careful, Itachi. Standing on the top of the hospital, Kushina looked down. A trace of worry flashed in her eyes, but she quickly suppressed it. The person dressed as an Anbu downstairs was Itachi, who came to protect her. Kushina really doesn't need to go down and help. In fact, with your current strength. At this moment, a dull voice sounded in Kushina's mind, and it was Kyuubi who spoke. 9. Lama, are you awake? Kushina said in a gentle tone. After these years of living together, she and Kyuubi had already lived in peace. If she wanted to, she could become a perfect Jinchuriki at any time. Let's give him some chances. After all, Itachi is a genius. Okay, but you better be prepared. These 2 people are not weak. In the consciousness space, the Yin Ninetails lay on a piece of green grass, and said without raising his head. Since the peaceful coexistence, Kushina has improved the living environment for Kyuubi. Compared with the damp sewers before, the current environment can be said to be like heaven and earth. On the field, facing Hidden rushing towards him, Itachi didn't feel a trace of panic. Hidden, one of the immortal duo, has a near immortal body because his body was transformed by a cult. He is good at using various curses. Information about Hidden flashed through Itachi's mind. As long as he doesn't get his blood. Itachi secretly thought in his heart. Then he raised his hands and began to quickly form seals. Fire release, the powerful fireball technique. In less than a second, Itachi had completed the seal. He opened his mouth and spit out a ball of crimson flames forward. Crack. The flames burned the air, making crackling sounds. The crimson flame surged forward quickly, turning into a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 5 meters in an instant. This is just Itachi reducing his chakra output. If he releases it with all his strength, the diameter of the fireball can even reach nearly 10 meters almost instantly. Hiden's body was submerged by the huge fireball. Call out, call out, call out. At the same time, several shurikens appeared in Itachi's hands. Without hesitation, the shurikens were thrown forward in an instant. Clang, clang, puff. There was a clear sound of metal collision, and two shurikens visible to the naked eye bounced out of the fireball. At the same time, a figure also came out of the fireball. It was Hidden. I saw that there was a faint trace of firelight remaining on his body at this time, but there were no obvious scars on his body, only a few faint burns on his skin. It was obvious that the power of Heiau's fireball was limited, and not enough to cause any substantial damage to him. Suddenly Fireball's Hidden swung his arm, and the blood sickle in his hand instantly cut towards Itachi's body in front. In response to this, Itachi quickly leaned back, dodged the blood sickle's attack, and stretched out his hand to pull. In an instant, Hidden felt his body tighten suddenly, and two arms quickly attached to his body, as if there was something there. It was like a rope bound him. In fact, if you look carefully, you will find that a small silver thread is wrapped around Hidden's body, and the two ends of the silver thread are held in Itachi's hands. The silver thread was the one that wrapped around Hidden's body. When Itachi used his shuriken without any hesitation, Itachi launched another attack, while the silver thread was wrapped around Hidden's body. Red flames burst out from his hands, then quickly spread towards the silver thread, and soon the flames appeared on Hidden's body. This flame was condensed by Itachi using compressed fire attribute chakra, and it was much more powerful than the powerful fireball just now. Almost instantly, a strong burning sensation appeared on Hidden's body, and a look of pain appeared on his face. The next moment, he began to struggle desperately, but the silver wire in Itachi's hand was made of a special material. It was not only extremely sharp, but also extremely tough. Even if it is heated by fire for a short period of time, it will not break. Kai. But at this moment, a figure flashed past, and then a sharp kunai was seen streaking through the air. The next moment, the silver thread binding Hidden was cut off. Chapter 317. This person is cruel enough. Ibuku, what an idiot you are. Outside the hospital, Kakuzu was holding a sharp kunai with a look of helplessness on his face. In his opinion, Hidden relied a little too much on his abilities. Although the immortal body was very strong, if the enemy got his information, his abilities would be greatly reduced. If he were Hidden's enemy, Kakuzu felt that he could kill Hidden with just a few powerful jounin. Kakuzu, a ninja from the time of the First Lord, has 5 hearts and masters 5 chakra attributes. Information about Kakuzu flashed through Itachi's mind. The expression under the mask gradually became serious. If Hidden was alone, Itachi, who was already familiar with his abilities, would be fully confident that he could solve it. But now Kakuzu was added to the mix. Itachi knew he had to go all out. In that case, Itachi secretly thought in his heart. The next moment, a powerful pupil force erupted in his eyes, and the 3 black magatama in the scholar eyes began to rotate rapidly, and then a black triangular pinwheel pattern appeared in the red eyes. Amaterasu, the pupil power of his right eye exploded, and a line of blood and tears quickly fell down. What's this? In an instant, Hidden shouted loudly. He looked down at the black flames that appeared on his chest. In just a moment, a strong burning sensation was transmitted to his body. Kakuzu on the side saw this, and took a quick step back. They distanced themselves from Hidden, and began to form seals with their hands. Water escape. Water rushes into waves. Kakuzu opened his mouth and spit out a ball of dark blue water towards Hidden. He tried to use water to extinguish Hidden's flames, but the result was obviously disappointing. The flames of Amaterasu will never be extinguished. Although in the original work, Amaterasu's flames are complained about as a flame that can never burn anyone, it is undeniable that Amaterasu, which has the characteristic of never being extinguished, is undoubtedly powerful. During this period, unless some special sealing techniques were used to seal the flames, Amaterasu would still be difficult to solve. Damn it. At this time, Kakuzu also saw that Amaterasu was not an ordinary flame. After a moment's hesitation, he turned his head and laid his eyes on Itachi, and a powerful aura burst out from him. Since he couldn't put out the flames, he no longer paid attention to Hiden's condition, and Kakuzu focused on Itachi. He knew that, if they didn't deal with Itachi, they wouldn't be able to leave here today. Call out, call out, call out. At this moment, several shurikens with detonating talismans ripped through the air and rushed towards Kakuzu. Itachi was the one who took action. He had a relatively stable fighting style and was used to using shuriken to test the enemy first. What? At this time, Hiden suddenly let out a painful roar, and the visible Amaterasu flames gradually began to spread on his body. It was only on his chest, but now it has spread to his arms. But at this moment, Hiden made a surprising move, and a sharp kunai appeared in his hand. Hiden, who was holding a kunai, stabbed the kunai directly into himself, and then cut off a large piece of flesh on his chest, as if cutting off flesh. He wanted to use this method to get rid of the Amaterasu flame from his body. This man is cruel enough. The Enbu personnel hiding around were deeply shocked after seeing Hiden's actions. It takes a lot of courage and endurance to cut off your own flesh. But what they didn't know was that Hiden had no choice at this time. He felt a strong sense of threat from the black flames. He knew that, if he didn't find a way to deal with it quickly, he might really be killed. Burnt to ashes. Although the method of cutting flesh was cruel, it was also his only option now. Hiden endured the severe pain in his body and quickly scratched his body with the kunai, cutting off piece after piece of flesh stained with black flames. Boom. At this moment, an explosion sounded, and a huge puff of smoke appeared where Kakuzu was just now. Wind. Escape. Pressure. At this moment, a high-pressure wind ball rushed out of the smoke, and instantly the wind ball exploded, forming a whirlpool-like storm, and falling towards Itachi. Itachi, who had been prepared for this, had chakra surge in his body, moved quickly, and avoided the attack of the storm with his flexible body. Thunder. Escape. Pseudo-darkness. Crack. Crack. But the next moment, a long spear formed by blue thunder and lightning swept towards Itachi. Countless arcs of electricity burst out from the thunder spear. Wherever it passed, patches of charred black appeared on the ground. Itachi's eyes trembled. This move was extremely powerful and covered a wide area. He couldn't dodge it at his current speed. Boom. The next moment, the lightning spear struck Itachi, and Kakuzu's figure walked out of the smoke. It can be seen that a mask appeared on each of his shoulders at this time, which is the mode of earthly resentment. The two ninjutsu just now were performed by these two masks. His eyes fell on Itachi in front of him. The next moment, Kakuzu's pupils shrank, and he saw a circle of red skeletons appearing around Itachi, which looked like human ribs from a distance. The thunder gun was blocked by the skeleton, and did not hurt Itachi. The same move as Uzumaki Naraku. Kakuzu's pupils trembled slightly as he thought of the golden giant tens of meters high he saw last time. For a moment, Kakuzu felt a sense of fear in his heart. He felt that this time he might really fall here. What? At this moment, Hiden on the side finally let out a cry of pain. It can be seen that Hiden's body is covered with red blood at this time, and some bones can even be seen in some parts. Although he paid an extremely painful price, there was no black flame left on Hiden's body at this time, and he cut off all the flesh on his body that was stained by the flame. Haha. After doing all this, Hiden was gasping for air. Even though he had the god of immortality, he felt extremely weak at this time. However, Hiden knew that it was not the time to rest yet, so he tried to stabilize his body. Swish. At this moment, Kakuzu appeared beside him in a flash. Then Kakuzu raised his right hand and stretched it towards Hiden. The next moment, countless black threads sprang out from his arm. These black threads wrapped around Hiden's body like small snakes. The black line is formed by Kakuzu's chakra, which can ensure to a certain extent that Hiden's wounds will not tear with his movements. Itachi across from him looked at the actions of the two of them, a cold light flashing in his scarlet eyes. Then powerful pupil power burst out from his eyes, and the red skeleton visible to the naked eye began to grow rapidly. Then a 5-meter tall half-length Susanoo enveloped Itachi's body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Kakuzu, where to go next? It's time to end it. On the field, Itachi murmured in his mouth. The next moment, blood and tears fell from his eyes, and the already extremely tall skeleton Susan changed again. Red energy burst out from Susan's body, and then the energy turned into flesh and blood to fill up the skeleton Susan. However, this was not the end. Itachi's eye power continued to explode, and finally Susan stayed in the Karasa Tengu form. At this time, Susan looked like a warrior wearing armor. Swish! Itachi's figure moved, and along with him was the half-length Susan covering him. Itachi's movements were extremely fast, and he was in front of the two of them in just a split second. Arsehole, go to hell. At this time, Hidden, with the help of Kakuzu, temporarily stabilized his injuries. When he saw Itachi rushing over, he didn't hesitate at all. He directly clenched the bloody March scythe in his hand and rushed towards the red Susanoo point buff. But at this moment, a burst of bright red blood splashed out, and Hidden's body was penetrated by a red-yellow sword point. The long sword is composed of red-yellow energy and looks very powerful. The Ten-Fist Sword is one of the three greatest artifacts in the ninja world. The red-yellow sword pierced Hidden's body, and then swung it violently. Hidden's body instantly fell to the ground, as if he had lost consciousness, and passed out. The Ten-Fist Sword, as one of the three great artifacts in the ninja world, has a very powerful ability, which is sealed in the illusion world of Zumeng. Anyone whose body is penetrated by the Ten-Fist Sword will fall into the world of illusion, as if they have lost consciousness. Just like Hidden just now, although his body did not suffer much damage, the illusion has come to him. Unless Itachi takes the initiative to remove the illusion, Hidden will never wake up. You're the only one left. Itachi cast his gaze on Kakuzu, his scarlet eyes flashing with a sharp light point at this time. When Kakuzu saw Hidden being pierced through his body, he felt his scalp numb for an instant. Without any hesitation, black lines flashed across his body, and then three figures wearing masks emerged from him. Split out of the body, wind, escape, pressure, fire, escape. Hard on the head. In an instant, two figures took action at the same time, and a sea of crimson fire spread towards Itachi. The remaining two figures took the opportunity to escape in two directions. Boom. Red Susanoo simply swung his sword, and the sea of fire instantly tore a hole in the middle. Ninjutsu of this level could not cause any harm to him at all. Puff. Puff. The mask with wind and fire attributes saw this and wanted to take action again, but was cut off by the red Susanoo sword. For this kind of monster, Susanoo has no ability to activate the Ten-Fist Sword at all, and just relying on physical damage is enough to deal with them. Looking at the two figures escaping in front of him, without any hesitation, Itachi's figure quickly flashed out of Susanoo and chased one of the figures, and several Anbu figures had appeared around the other figure. The leader among them is familiar. Escape from the wood, be bound by the tree, and be buried forever. After, the man quickly formed seals with his hands. A bud appeared at the feet of the monster wearing a water attribute mask. The one who took action was Yamato, who had become the captain of the Anbu. As Yamato continued to increase the delivery of chakra, the bud grew rapidly, and in an instant it grew into a big tree in the sky, directly suppressing the monster under the roots of the tree. The tree was still shaking slightly at first, but it soon stopped, and Yamato, who was wearing a mask, breathed a sigh of relief. He had just mastered this ninjutsu not long ago, and now it seems to be quite powerful. On the other side, Itachi had also caught up with the thunder attribute heart point. Although the opponent's thunder release was relatively powerful, his strength was greatly reduced with only one heart. It didn't take too long. Itachi directly solved it with only one fire release ninjutsu point. Although Kakuzu was successfully dealt with, Itachi frowned at this moment. According to the information Naraku conveyed, Kakuzu is good at 5 chakra ninjutsu, but from the beginning of the battle to now, Itachi has only seen the opponent using 4 ninjutsu. There is a missing heart. Itachi thought to himself, what? An old fox. Itachi guessed that Kakuzu had separated the earth type heart in advance before the battle began, in order to prevent this situation. In fact, Itachi only guessed half of it right. Kakuzu separated a heart in advance and went out, but not before the battle started, not even in the Leaf Village point. In fact, when he first arrived in the Land of Fire with Nagato, he had already separated the Earth Attribute heart in advance. Point facts also proved that his decision was extremely wise. Point at the same time, the Kingdom of Tang, a small country surrounding the Kingdom of Fire. Point a figure shrouded in black robes came here, and a familiar face could be vaguely seen through the black robes. It was Kakuzu. Sure enough, something unexpected happened. It seems that I can no longer stay in the Akatsuki organization in the future, Kakuzu thought to himself. Just now, he suddenly felt that the connection between himself and the other 4 hearts had disappeared. He knew that, if nothing else happened, those 4 hearts were dead. At this time, Kakuzu was very scared. He was glad that he had saved his life, otherwise he might have ended his long life. Walking on the streets of Yuno country, after Kakuzu thought carefully in his mind for a while, he decided not to participate in the affairs of the Akatsuki organization anymore. As an old guy who has lived for such a long time, Kakuzu has already seen that the current Akatsuki organization is already in chaos. He has already seen through things that Nagato cannot see. A new journey is about to begin. Where should we go next? In Konoha Village. Although Kakuzu has been discovered and has not been completely eliminated, the ninja world is so big that Itachi cannot hold on to him alone. Then Itachi and the Ando personnel cleaned up the battlefield, but at the end, when Itachi's eyes fell on Hidden, his eyes trembled slightly. At this time, it can be seen that Hidden's originally bloody body has recovered more than half, and you can even clearly see cells squirming in his wounds. Even the chest that was pierced by the 10-fist sword was healing quickly. It's really an immortal body, Itachi murmured softly in his mouth, and then his eye energy exploded, and a black triangular windmill appeared. Leave his body to me. Just when Itachi was about to use Amaterasu's flames to completely turn Hidden's body into ashes, a gentle female voice sounded behind him. Itachi turned around and saw that it was Kushina. Okay, ma'am. Although he didn't know what Kushina wanted with Hidden's body, Itachi didn't refuse. After all, Hidden is now under the sealing illusion of the Juken sword, and no one can break this illusion except him. Chapter 319 Truly Worthy of Shunshinshisu. Lord Naraku. At the border of Wind Country, a man dressed as a Jonin bowed slightly to Naraku in front of him. Naraku nodded slightly. When he arrived at the border of Wind Country, he knew that it had been occupied by the people of Konoha Village. Indeed, with the strength of Konoha Village, it was not difficult to seize the border from the guards of Send Village. After Konoha Village occupied the border, the 5,000 ninja troops led by Choza temporarily stationed here, waiting for Tsunade's next order. It seems that our brother K is in trouble. After learning from Choza that Jiraiya had also secretly sneaked into Sand Village, Naraku's eyes flashed with a thoughtful look. Normally, with Kakashi's current strength, it would be a simple matter to intimidate the Sand Village that lost the 4th Kazakage. Who in the entire Sand Village can stop him? So Naraku guessed that something big must have happened in Sand Village. After exchanging information with Choza, Naraku flashed across the border and rushed towards the direction of Sand Village. Now that Konoha Village has occupied the border of Wind Country, Sand Village must be obtained no matter what. Otherwise, if even Sand Village cannot be occupied, how can we talk about unifying the ninja world? Naraku also understood this in his heart. Sand Village must be taken. Konoha Hospital. At this time, Kushina had used the sealing technique to seal Fiden's body and finally received it in a scroll. Because Fiden's consciousness has fallen into the illusion, he is now no different from a vegetative person, so even if he is put into a scroll that cannot carry living things, it is okay. After doing all this, it was time to get off work at the hospital. Kushina returned to the office, packed up briefly, and walked out of the hospital, and rushed towards the clanland of the Senju clan. And Itachi hid his body, and continued to follow her. Finally caught you, in the village, in a ranch. Naruto was holding a kitten in his arms, with an excited smile on his face. Although Sasuke beside him did not shout out like him, it can be seen that his face was also full of smiles. It seems that your mission is completed. At this time, Hong's gentle voice sounded, and then Hong, dressed as a ninja, came to the two with a smile on her face. In fact, Hong is not suitable to be the teacher of the two, but because the situation of Konoha village is special at this time, Naraku and Kakashi, who are most suitable to teach them, need to be busy with more important things, so they can only be handed over to Hong temporarily. Then Hong took them to hand over the kitten to the rancher. For this type of task of finding lost kittens, Konoha village generally treats it as a public welfare activity, so this type of task is generally not paid. However, despite being busy for a day and not getting paid, Naruto and Sasuke did not show any frustration on their faces. On the contrary, they were still very happy, especially Naruto. Naruto, who has a kind heart, is happy to be able to help others. Am I really overthinking it? At this time, Tsunade, who was hiding in the dark, said in her heart. She left the Hokage's office and did not go to the hospital, but came to Naruto. In her opinion, Kushina, who already had a certain strength, plus Itachi's protection, should not be in any danger when facing the two people from the Akatsuki organization. But Naruto was different. Although she sent Kei to protect Naruto, she still felt a little uneasy for some reason, so she rushed over with Shizu. Nothing unusual had happened until now, and she was relieved. Shizu and Kei behind her had the same mentality as her. In the ranch, after declining the ranch owner's kindness to let them stay as guests, Hong took the two out. Before leaving here, her eyes inadvertently glanced in the direction of Tsunade and the others. At this time, she thought that Kei was the only one guarding in the dark. Suddenly, next to Naruto, the originally stable space began to fluctuate. Not good, Tsunade said in her heart, and then the blue chakra surrounded her body and rushed forward quickly. Swish, swish. But at this moment, two figures rushed forward before her, and they were Shizu and Kei. Especially Shizu. In just a moment, he had already arrived in front of Naruto and Sasuke, and without hesitation, stretched out his hands and pressed on their shoulders. At this time, a space vortex also appeared in front of everyone, and then a familiar figure appeared. The wide black robe, tiger patterned mask, and scarlet eyes were Obito. However, just after Obito's figure had just stabilized, Shizu, Naruto, and Sasuke's figures suddenly flashed, and then disappeared from the spot. This is the Flying Thunder God technique. It's really worthy of being Shizu of the instant body. Obito narrowed his eyes slightly, and his scarlet eyes fell on the place where Shizu disappeared. He was very familiar with the Flying Thunder God technique. Both Minato and Kakashi had used it many times in front of him. Open the gate, rest the gate, life the gate, injury the gate, stop the gate, and view the gate. Open. At this time, Kei directly opened the 6 gates and saw green energy surrounding his body, and his black hair was blown back by the invisible momentum. Even an ordinary cage level warrior would not be a match for Kei in the 6th gate state. Kei, with his aura rising, stood in front of Kurenai, and Tsunade also came over and stood side by side with him. At this moment, the space fluctuation came again, and Shizu, who had just disappeared, returned, and there was another figure beside him. It was Itachi. As for Naruto and Sasuke, he had sent them to the clanland of the Senju clan, where there were many barriers, and with Kushina in charge, there would be no problems in a short time. Tsunade, Kei, Shizu, Itachi, a total of 4 cage level warriors surrounded Obito from all directions. Zetsu is really unreliable. At this moment, Obito said a self-deprecating word. His scarlet eyes looked around and fell on several people. Obito's expression under the mask always had a hint of disdain. But when his eyes fell on Shizu, he dodged twice. Obito still had a little fear of the eye technique that could change the will of others. Although he was very confident in his eye power, it was better not to try such risky things. We'll see each other soon, everyone. After saying this, a space vortex enveloped Obito's figure, and then his figure disappeared on the spot. Chapter 320 The situation of Konoha village and the way to break the situation. Outside the ranch. Looking at Obito disappearing in place, a complicated look appeared on Tsunade's face. Now the situation that Konoha is facing is becoming more and more serious. Whether it is the Akatsuki organization or Orochimaru of Sunagakure village, these will be stumbling blocks for Konoha village to unify the ninja world. At this moment, Tsunade felt the pressure again, but when she looked up at Shizu and others in front of her, the pressure on her shoulders seemed to be reduced a lot. Nowadays, the powerful young generation in Konoha village gives her great confidence. Point in front of him were Kakashi the Silver Fang Flash, Shisu Shunshin, and Konoha's Blue Beast. Met K. Point later, there was a genius like Itachi, and today's Konoha village is not afraid of any wind and rain. Point the most fortunate thing for Tsunade is that, whether it is Kakashi, Gai, Shisu and Itachi, they all regard Naraku as their most cherished partner. It is precisely because of Naraku that these people can now be used by her safely, so Naraku is her greatest confidence. Tsunade then left the ranch with a few people. The home of the Thousand Hands clan, in a training ground. Call out. A shuriken flew through the air and landed on a big tree. If you look closely, you will find that there are several circles carved on the tree, and the shuriken just landed on the red dot in the middle. Haha, how about Sasuke? I succeeded. At this moment, a slightly proud voice sounded, and it was Naruto who spoke. I saw him looking proud at this time, with an unstoppable smile on his face. At this time, Sasuke had a dark look on his face, lowered his head, and gritted his teeth and said, "That's my bullseye forehead." Naruto was stunned for a moment, and the proud look on his face slowly disappeared, and then he scratched his head and said, "Your bullseye, my bullseye, aren't they both bullses?" Sasuke, who was very speechless about this, ignored him and quickly threw himself into training with several shurikens in his hand. At this time, you can see that both Naruto and Sasuke have changed the shurikens in their hands from the original wooden material to iron ones, and each one has edged point. Although they are still young, they have become ninjas, and received the treatment that ninjas deserve. Not far from them, a red-haired figure was looking at the two of them with a smile. Although there was a smile on her face, there was a hint of worry in Kushina's eyebrows. Although Shisu didn't say anything clearly when he hurriedly brought her back to the clan. When she saw Naruto and Sasuke, she knew something must have happened. After thinking about what happened in Konoha Hospital today, it was obvious that the so-called Akatsuki organization was ready to take action against her and Naruto. Thinking of this, the man in black who appeared when she gave birth appeared in Kushina's mind. The man who killed Minato. A sharp light appeared in Kushina's eyes. Uchiha Obito, you will pay the price, Kushina whispered in her heart. Even though Obito was once a disciple of Minato, Kushina still would not forgive him, the person who killed her husband and now wants to kill her son. 9 llamas. In the space of consciousness, Kyuubi opened his eyes after hearing the call, and a pair of beast eyes as big as a lantern exuded a frightening aura. You've already thought about it, Kushina. Well, it's time to contribute some of your strength to the village. Okay, I will help you. Kyuubi grinned, a fierce look appearing in his eyes. Obito, Uchiha is just a brat who actually caused me to do such a thing. I will make you pay the price. Kyuubi thought viciously in his heart. Hokage's office. Tsunade, who left the ranch, returned here. Originally, she was planning to return directly to her clan, but she received a message from Shikaku on the way, so he and Shisu had no choice but to return here again. As for Itachi, Tsunade continued to send him to protect Kushina, while Kei and Kurenai went home to wait for the next order. Boom. A burst of white smoke appeared in the office. After Tsunade came back, she directly released the shadow clone left behind, and a memory instantly appeared in her mind. After completely digesting the memories in her mind, Tsunade's face hardened. What? A quick response. She murmured, yes, Hokage-sama, both Iwa Ninja Village and Cloud Ninja Village have discovered that Konoha is going to launch a war against Tsunagakure Village. There is news that the 3rd Tsuchikage and the 4th Raikage have been in secret contact. Lu Jiu on the side frowned slightly and said, this is not good news for Konoha today. Among the 5 major countries in the ninja world, because of the existence of Konoha Village, the Fire Country has undoubtedly become the strongest among the 5 major countries. The number of ninjas in the entire Konoha Village is about 20,000. The weaker Kirigakure and Tsunagakure villages have less than 15,000 ninjas, while Iwagakure and Konoha Village have about the same number. Only Yun Ninja Village is different. As the country that is best at military power in the ninja world, the number of ninjas in Yun Ninja Village has reached an astonishing 25,000, and even Konoha Village cannot compare with it. However, the number of ninjas does not mean everything. The high-end power in Konoha Village is greater than that of any ninja village. If nothing else, The number of shadow level strongmen in Konoha village can now be counted on one hand. This advantage is unmatched by other ninja villages without the participation of the Akatsuki organization and the unexpected appearance of Orochimaru. Tsunade would not be afraid at all, even if the Iwa Ninja village and the Cloud Ninja village teamed up. But now things are a little bad. The village has sent 5,000 ninja troops to occupy the border of Tsunagakure village. This army will definitely not withdraw before Tsunagakure village is completely defeated. In this case, there would only be 15,000 ninjas left in the village. In this way, even if Kirigakure village is included, the number of ninjas in Iwa and Kumo villages cannot be compared. The once dominant high-end combat power has become unstable due to the participation of the Akatsuki organization. Based on the current situation, if Iwa and Yun villages really unite to launch an attack on Konoha, it will be difficult for us to resist it. Even if the Kirigakure village is behind the Kumo ninja, it will be difficult to change the overall situation. Lu Jiu calmly analyzed the situation. As a strategist, he must consider every situation and prepare for the worst. Boom. Boom. At this moment, a knock on the door rang in the office, and Tsunade spoke directly, as if she already knew who the person was. "Please come in." With a creak, a handsome red-haired figure walked in. It was Naraku's shadow clone. The shadow clone then reported to Tsunade that Naraku had gone to Tsunagakure village. Suddenly, Tsunade and Shikaku's eyes lit up at the same time, and the way to break the situation came. Chapter 321 Drink. Artisan explosion. Inside the Hokage's office, the shadow clone automatically dissipated after reporting some things to Tsunade. Tsunade began to discuss the next war arrangements with Shikaku. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, Tsunade ordered to summon all the ninjas in the village who were performing tasks outside. She wanted to gather all her strength. The next step is to wait. What they were waiting to see was whether the Iwa ninja and the Kumo ninja would gather their troops to attack them first, or whether they would occupy Tsunagakure village first. If it is the latter, then Konoha village can still take a breath. After occupying Tsunagakure village, only a part of the army will be left there, and high-end combat forces like Naraku and Kakashi can be spared to face them. There are two villages in Yan and Yun, but if it's the former, Konoha village will be preparing for a fierce war. Tsunade prepared for the worst in her heart. If that moment really came, even she would come to the front line in person and kill the enemy with everyone. This time, no one can shake the determination to unify the ninja world. At the same time, in the territory of the Thousand Hands clan, Kushina frowned and looked at the man lying on the hospital bed. The man's eyes were tightly closed. Like her, he also had red hair. This man was Nagato. Before Naraku's shadow clone went to the Hokage's office, he sent Nagato here first. Nagato, Jiraiya's disciple. As for Nagato's identity, the shadow clone did not explain too much to Kushina, but just told her that the other party was Jiraiya's disciple. At this time, Kushina had recognized the identity of the Uzumaki clan of Nagato. She did not expect that in addition to her and Naraku, there were people from the Uzumaki clan in the current ninja world. Perhaps because they were both members of the Uzumaki clan, and because Nagato was a disciple of Jiraiya, Kushina took the initiative to use medical ninjutsu to treat his injuries, and also used gauze to surround his eyes. Nagato did not reject this, but remained silent and did not speak. There was just a hint of guilt rising in his heart. Taki Ninja Village. As a small ninja village surrounded by 4 countries, due to its special geographical location, Taki Ninja Village was lucky enough not to have been invaded by other countries. In front of a huge waterfall, a man wearing a black robe and a tiger-striped mask appeared here. It was Obito. Next to him was a yellow-haired boy, Deidara. Although it took a little time, we finally found the place, Obito murmured in his heart. Although he now masters the 2 major time and space ninjutsu, it still takes him some time to travel such a large distance, and this is still under the condition of using instant memory. Shunsuke, the ability given to Zuosuke by his main Juki Sharingan, allows his body to instantly transfer to places he has been. Overall, this pupil technique is still very powerful, giving Obito once again a life-saving ability. To put it a bit arrogantly, with the 2 major time and space ninjutsu of Kamu and Shuanmui, plus this pair of eternal main Juki Sharingan, and the wood release ninjutsu he mastered, He felt that he had already stood at the pinnacle of the ninja world. Even Nagato, who had the Rinnegan Eye, could not be his opponent. When he competed with Nagato, he just wanted to see the power of the Rinnegan Eye point. If he had used all his strength at that time, Nagato would never have been his opponent. Obito looked up at the waterfall in front of him, then no longer hesitated, jumped up, and passed through the waterfall together with Deidara. The next moment, the two people who passed through the waterfall saw a new scene. Blue sky, green grass, everything here looked full of vitality. I didn't expect that Taki Ninja Village is actually here. This natural environment really makes people want to show off their art. Deidara spoke and made a sound, showing an excited look on his face as he spoke. Perhaps he was afraid that Obito would look down upon him because of the incident in the Iwa Ninja Village, so Deidara took the initiative to ask for help this time. Before Obito could make any move, he had already rushed towards a village in the distance in a flash. Wait until I bring you the Seven Tails Jinchuriki. After saying these words, Deidara disappeared from Obito's sight. Obito sneered at this. A trace of disdain flashed in his eyes, and then his figure flashed and disappeared. The tailed beast was of great importance, and he didn't dare to let Deidara run wild. This guy kept shouting that explosions were art. He was even a little worried that the other party would be killed directly by the Seven Tails Jinchuriki, which would be more gain than loss. The fact was just as Obito expected. Deidara, sitting on a giant bat made of white clay, launched an indiscriminate bombing on the village. As soon as he arrived, despair. Dozens of chunks of white clay slipped from the giant bird and fell toward the village below. Boom, boom, boom. The white clay exploded the moment it landed on the ground. The huge impact of the explosion instantly tore apart the surrounding buildings. The woman who was preparing to cook in the house was submerged as the house collapsed. In the ruins, Taki Ninja Village is originally a small ninja village. Except for Kakuzu, who defected, the strongest person in it is only a jounin. And unfortunately, at this time, the jounin is also out on a mission. Therefore, the most powerful people in Taki Ninja Village today are only a few chunin. These chunin had no way to deal with the explosive clay that kept falling from the giant birds. Even if they tried their best, they could only ensure that they were not affected by the explosion. It's just that the explosive clay that Deidara dropped down didn't lock on them, otherwise no one would be able to escape. Drink. Art is an explosion. At this time, Deidara's face on the giant bat was full of madness. What he enjoyed was the pleasure brought by the explosion. Whenever there was an explosion sound, his crazy eyes would flash, get crazier. But even though he enjoyed the thrill of the explosion, Deidara did not forget his mission, which was to find the Seven Tails Jinchuriki. Boom. After destroying most of the buildings in the village, Deidara controlled the body of the giant bird and made it come to a slightly older chunin. Without any nonsense, Deidara said directly, "Where is the Seven Tails Jinchuriki?" Facing the other party's question, a sneer appeared on the chunin's face. "You destroyed our home and killed our relatives just to find the Seven Tails Jinchuriki. You are really a devil." The chunin raised his hand and began to quickly form seals, preparing to attack Deidara, but the next moment, he stopped what he was doing, and a pair of scarlet eyes appeared in his sight. Chapter 322 Generation 2. I picked up a stone and hit myself in the foot. Boom. In the Taki Ninja Village, as the chunin fell to the ground, Obito already knew the information he wanted. Then he appeared beside Deidara in a flash, and the two of them rushed in the same direction on the giant bat. Soon the two arrived at their destination, and they could see a huge cave appearing in front of them. Obito walked straight in without hesitation. He had already learned from the chunin's memory that the seven-tailed Jinchuriki lived in this cave, and that the current seven-tailed Jinchuriki was just a child who had just turned 10. This poses no threat to Obito at all. Call out. Suddenly, a sound broke through the air, and a sharp kunai tore through the air and rushed towards Obito. In response, Obito dodged the kunai's attack with a slight dodge. Then he turned his head and looked to his left, only to see a childish-looking figure appear there, with short green hair, and holding a sharp kunai in each hand. It is none other than the seven-tailed Jinchuriki. "Fu, who are you?" Fu asked loudly, and you could see that her young body was shaking a little. It was obvious that she was very scared at this time. The second one cold, and ruthless words spat out of Obito's mouth, and then he flashed and appeared behind Fu, knocking him out with just a hand knife point. Then Obito put his hand on Fu's body, and the next moment, a space vortex appeared, covering the two figures, and then their figures disappeared at the same time. At the same time, two more figures appeared in the Camu space. It was Obito and his two men. Obito looked down at Fu on the ground. Or thought flashed in his scholar eyes. A bold plan arose in Obito's heart, and then his hands began to form seals quickly. Unlock the tail seal. After completing the seal, he slapped Fu on Fu's body. The next moment, a burst of violent energy burst out from his body, until finally, a giant creature appeared in front of Obito. From a distance, it looks like a giant insect with 6 wings and a tail. The upper body is blue and the lower body is green. It is Nanao Shijiki. As the smallest of the tailed beasts, Nanao's strength is not outstanding. Seeing the enemy who killed his host, Changming attacked Obito the moment he appeared, and soon one man and one beast became a group. But soon, Obito suppressed the tailed beast with the wood-release ninjutsu that restrained it. Finally, he used the Bagua seal to seal the 7 tails in his body. As a former disciple of Minato, Minato also gave them some information on sealing techniques, including the practice method of Bagua sealing. Puff. As a wisp of grey smoke floated from Obito's lower abdomen, the Nanao was successfully sealed. In fact, Madara left instructions on how to use the tailed beasts during his lifetime. According to Madara's wishes, Nagato used the power to summon the outside demons, and sealed the tailed beasts from 1 tail to 9 tails to the outsiders in order. Inside the body of the golem. This way the 10 tails can be awakened, and their plan can be realized. But now that the heretic demon statue has been sent back to the moon by Nagato, the first and second tails are temporarily unavailable. If he continues to do what Madara wants, it will be difficult for Obito to achieve his goal. So he decided to take a different path. If there were no outside demons, he would use his body as a demon to seal all the tailed beasts he could temporarily capture into his body. In this way, when the tailed beasts are almost gathered, he can directly seal the outside demon into his body. By then, he can become the 10-tailed Jinchuriki. The plan can be completed. Obito knew that if Zetsu knew about his plan, he would definitely not agree to it, so he could only kill it first, and then reveal it, sealing the tailed beast in his body first. By then it will be too late, even if you want to say something. Another point is that Obito has always felt that there is some secret hidden from him, especially after his strength has increased significantly. At this time, Obito could no longer trust you, he only believed in himself. Peace will definitely come. Obito looked at Fu's body on the ground, and then released a fire escape ninjutsu, and finally the body turned into ashes in the Camu space. After successfully sealing the Nanao, Obito left here in a flash. Outside the cave, Deidara was standing at the entrance of the cave with a bored look on his face, looking at the village not far away that was about to be reduced to ruins. A pity flashed in Deidara's eyes. If it hadn't been for Obito's obstruction, he will definitely show his true art there now. However, Deidara now knew his position very well, and he did not dare to disobey Obito's orders. Despair. At this moment, a sound of footsteps came from the cave. Deidara turned his head and saw Obito walking out of the cave. Then the two of them left here directly. Not long after they left, a small team came to the cave. They were all ninjas from Taki Ninja Village. After searching carefully in the cave, they realized that Fu, who was the 7-tailed Jinchuriki, had been kidnapped by the two men. For a moment, everyone in this team was silent. Taki Ninja Village is just a small ninja village. Not to mention that they don't know who kidnapped Fu. Even if they know, they don't dare to say anything. This is the tragedy of Zio Ninja Village and the tragedy of the week. The Kingdom of Wind, a hidden location outside Sand Hidden Village. A tall figure slowly sneaked in here, with unruly long white hair and red paint on his face. The person who came was none other than Jiraiya. After a long journey, he arrived here. Out of caution, Jiraiya did not sneak into Sunagakure village immediately, but chose to check outside the village. He knew that Kakashi, who knew that he was coming to Sunagakure village, would definitely pick him up. The fact was just as he expected. Just a moment after he arrived here, a thin figure appeared in front of him. It was Kakashi. "You're here, Jiraiya." nodded slightly, and then under the leadership of Kakashi, the two came to a hidden location point. Here Kakashi told Jiraiya all about the situation in Sand Hidden Village and the news about Orochimaru, including the second generation Hokage who was reincarnated by the dirty soil. Reincarnation. From the dirty soil, second generation master. There was a look of surprise on Jiraiya's face. Although Orochimaru had summoned Danzo using the Earth reincarnation technique before, when he heard that even the second Hokage had been summoned, Jiraiya still shocked. You must know that the ninjutsu of reincarnation in the Earth was invented by the second Hokage. In this situation, isn't it just that he shot himself in the foot? Chapter 323, Orochimaru's reputation increases. Outside Sand Hidden Village. As night fell, the entire ninja world fell into darkness. At this time, Jiraiya's face was a little gloomy. With the current strength of Konoha Village, it would have been a simple matter to capture Tsunagakure Village, but now because of Orochimaru's intervention, it was not easy to capture Tsunagakure Village. Easy thing now. Point according to Kakashi, Orochimaru now has both the corpse vein and the Byakugan bloodline, and his strength has greatly increased. Although he is unwilling to admit it, Jiraiya knows that Orochimaru's strength has surpassed him at this time. In addition, the opponent has mastered the art of reincarnation, so even if he and Kakashi join forces, they may not be able to defeat him. Since the other party can summon the second Hokage, it is not impossible for the first Hokage to reappear in the world. Jiraiya was well aware of the power of these two ancestors, especially the first Hokage, who was known as the god of ninja, and could conquer the 5 major countries alone. However, Jiraiya was not too discouraged. Because of Naraku's relationship, he also knew something about the forbidden art of reincarnation in the Earth. He knew that there were some restrictions on the summoned dead. Among them, if the physical strength of the sacrifice is too low, it will be difficult for the summoned person to exert all his combat power. For a strong man like the first Hokage, there is nobody in the entire ninja world that can allow him to exert his full power. Kindness? At this moment, Kakashi seemed to sense something and frowned. Then he closed his eyes and sensed carefully, and found that someone was summoning him with the Flying Thunder God. Everyone who masters the Flying Thunder God technique is sensitive to the Flying Thunder God warlock imprinted by them. In addition to being able to transfer it to the warlock himself, when others transfer chakra to the warlock, the person who imprints the warlock it can also be sensed. Point at this time, Kakashi sensed that someone was sending chakra to the warlock, who was imprinted on him. There are only a few sorcerers who can possess the Kakashi seal, and know how to channel chakra into it. There are only Kushina, Naraku, Tsunade, and Shisu in the entire ninja world. Of course, Kakashi also gave Jiraiya a kunai engraved with the mark of the Flying Thunder God before, but he has always been unruly. Jiraiya, who loves freedom, didn't know where to throw the kunai point. After saying hello to Jiraiya, Kakashi's figure became illusory for a while, and then disappeared directly. Looking at Kakashi disappearing, a flash of memory flashed in Jiraiya's eyes, as if the man like the sun had never left. Not long after, the space in front of Jiraiya shook for a while, and then a silver-haired figure appeared in front of him. It was Kakashi. Kakashi then informed Jiraiya of the news he had just received. Naraku is coming too, Jiraiya murmured, and his nervous expression gradually relaxed. As Naraku's teacher, he knew very well how powerful his apprentice was now, having already surpassed him a few years ago. Now he, Kakashi, and Naraku, a lineup of 3 shadow-level powerhouses, are a little more confident when facing Orochimaru. In this regard, Jiraiya decided on the spot that after Naraku arrived at Tsunagakure Village, they would immediately take action to deal with Orochimaru and capture Tsunagakure Village. The next day, outside Tsunagakure Village, a red-haired figure was walking quickly through the yellow sand in the sky. It was Naraku. Naraku looked up and saw the outline of Tsunagakure Village not far ahead. After traveling all night, he finally arrived. In fact, with Naraku's speed, it wouldn't take that long, but he didn't rush on the road with all his strength. He even used the wood-release ninjutsu to build a wooden house at night, and rested enough in it before he started on the road. Just as he was about to arrive at Sand Hidden Village, a burst of strange energy burst out from Naraku's body and quickly spread around. In an instant, with him as the center, he could clearly sense the chakra fluctuations within a 10-mile radius. In order to quickly join Jiraiya and Kakashi, he opened Kagura's inner eye. Soon he discovered 3 familiar chakra fluctuations, 2 of which were gathered together, and the other was rapidly approaching those 2. It is indeed you, Orochimaru. Naraku frowned. Through the shadow clone, he already knew that Orochimaru had Byakugan and became the 5th Kazekage. He was also very surprised at that time, especially the fact that his opponent Orochimaru had Byakugan. This incident reminded Naraku of the scroll under the Kaguya clan. At this time, he could conclude that Orochimaru must have obtained some secret on the other side of the passage. What he got at that time was about the relationship between the Uchiha clan and the Senju and Uzumaki families. They were all descendants of the Sage of Six Paths. If nothing unexpected happens, what Orochimaru obtained in another channel should be about the relationship between the Hyuga clan and the Kaguya clan. Naraku guessed that if the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan were both descendants of the Sage of Six Paths, then the Kaguya clan and the Hyuga clan should both be descendants of Hagoromo, the younger brother of the Sage of Six Paths, with the combination of corpse veins and Byakugan. Naraku also knew that Orochimaru's strength must have increased several times without even thinking about it. If it was still the same Orochimaru, Kakashi would have defeated him long ago. Swish. Naraku's body flashed, and his figure turned into an afterimage, and moved quickly in one direction. On the other side, at the entrance of Sand Hidden Village, a white-haired figure flashed quickly and appeared outside the village. That is, the guard at the entrance of the village rubbed his eyes. Just now he felt a white shadow flashing in front of his eyes. Just when he thought it was an illusion. That's Kazekage-sama. The companion on the side opened his mouth and made a sound full of surprise. The man turned his head to look towards the entrance of the village again and saw a white-haired figure appearing there. The back looked very similar to the 5th generation Kazekage they had just taken office the day before yesterday. What are you doing here, Kazekage-sama? The guard, who was a little tired from working for a long time, suddenly became energetic, and a look of admiration appeared on his face. After Orochimaru successfully defeated Kakashi yesterday, his reputation in Tsunagakure village has greatly improved, even though there is news that their 5th Kazekage is Orochimaru, the former Abel ninja of Konoha village. But most people in Tsunagakure village regard this news as a rumor. To them, the 5th Kazekage was a savior-like existence, and it was impossible for them to believe that kind of information. Of course, there are some people with clear heads who have noticed something, but they, like the senior officials in the village, have all chosen to remain silent. Chapter 324. The nephew has really grown up. In Tsunagakure village, those who could see that Orochimaru's identity was suspicious also realized how unbearable the current situation in the village was. They knew very well that, if they did not rely on Orochimaru, Tsunagakure village would be occupied by Konoha in less than 2 days, and no one wanted to see that situation. Therefore, no one cares about the true identity of the 5th Kazekage. As long as it is beneficial to Tsunagakure village, and can protect the village. So what if he is really Orochimaru? Outside Sand Hidden Village, standing at the entrance of the village, Orochimaru looked at the sky full of yellow sand in front of him. Suddenly, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and a cold smile emanated from there, and his pale pupils revealed an intriguing look. Despair. At this moment, several footsteps sounded, and 2 figures suddenly appeared in the yellow sand in front of Orochimaru, one tall and one thin. One had red paint on his face, and the other wore a black mask. It was Kakashi and Jiraiya. Jiraiya, you're here. Orochimaru's expression did not change as he looked at his former companions fighting side by side in front of him, except for a complicated expression flashing deep in his eyes. But it was quickly hidden by him. The reason Orochimaru appeared in this position was because he sensed Jiraiya's aura. For Orochimaru, he was very clear about Tsunagakure village's purpose of letting him succeed the 5th Kazekage, but Orochimaru also had his own plans. What's more, Orochimaru also wants to see how strong Konoha village is now. Orochimaru, leave Tsunagakure village, and stop doing things that harm the village. Compared to Orochimaru, who was very good at hiding his emotions, Jiraiya made it obvious. The moment he saw Orochimaru, his expression changed. Finally, Jiraiya spoke, and he gave Orochimaru a choice. Although he did not say it explicitly, if Orochimaru chose to leave Sand Hidden Village at this time, Jiraiya would definitely let him go. But it was obvious that he was disappointed. The expression on Orochimaru's face was still cold, and he was not moved at all by Jiraiya's performance. Haha, as expected, Jiraiya, you have always been a fool, Orochimaru sneered, his cold eyes falling on the two of them full of sarcasm. I knew you would never understand me. Orochimaru looked disappointed and shook his head helplessly. Point boom. The next moment, a loud noise came, and the ground in front of Orochimaru trembled. Then a huge, black bone python emerged from the ground and rushed towards Jiraiya and the two of them dodged in a flashpoint swish. But at this moment, a figure suddenly emerged from the yellow sand in the sky. After that, the figure moved very fast and jumped up high. Boom. The ground shook suddenly, and the figure landed directly on the black python's head. The huge force directly shattered the black python's head, and then a powerful impact fell on the ground, and a burst of smoke instantly rising. At this time, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly, and a hint of surprise flashed through his pale pupils, but it quickly disappeared. Uncle Master. Long time no see. At this moment, a familiar voice came from the smoke. Sure enough, it's here. Naraku. Jiraiya and Kakashi nodded at the same time. The former's heart was instantly relieved. Haha, nephew. Today is a gathering between me and the teacher. Are you coming to disturb us? Orochimaru said with a sneer. Then he reached out and slapped forward, and instantly a strong palm wind appeared. The palm wind roared, and the wind was as strong as a knife point. The wind from his palm roared past, instantly dispersing the huge smoke in front of him, and then a red-haired figure appeared in front of him. It was Naraku, and along with it appeared a pile of scattered incomplete black bones. Naraku first nodded to Jiraiya and Kakashi beside him, and then turned his attention to Orochimaru opposite him. A party. Such a lively event requires everyone to come together. Naraku took a step forward, a strong momentum bursting out from him, visible to the naked eye. The air around him fluctuated like a tide. Point. He also wanted to see the combination of corpse veins and white eyes. Point. Boom. Suddenly, Naraku's figure disappeared from the place in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Orochimaru. Without any hesitation, chakra burst out from his right fist in a rapid movement. Naraku punched forward suddenly, and the explosive wind directly shattered the air, and then landed heavily on Orochimaru. Boom. Almost instantly, Orochimaru's body flew backwards like a cannonball. Is this Tsunade's apprentice or mine? Jiraiya saw this scene on the side, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Among all the people present, no one was more familiar with Naraku's move just now than him. Tsunade's strange power. Through this move, Jiraiya can judge that Naraku's use of strange power at this time is no weaker than Tsunade. Kakashi on the other side was already used to this. During the discussions between K and the three of them, Naraku often used his strange power to compete with K's physical skills. It was not until K also mastered his strange power that this situation became much less common. Haha. My nephew has really grown up. He is even stronger than his uncle. As the voice came, Orochimaru's figure appeared in front of several people again. Naraku narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't see a single scratch on Orochimaru's body. Only the clothes, where he had just been hit, were broken. As expected of the most perfect corpse bone veins, this recovery ability is indeed very powerful. Naraku secretly thought to himself, you must know that when he punched just now, he clearly felt that the bones in Orochimaru's body were broken by him, but now he has recovered as before. This powerful recovery ability is no worse than him. A touch of fighting spirit emerged in Naraku's eyes. Even though Orochimaru's strength has greatly increased, Naraku is not afraid at all. You must know that yesterday he just defeated Nagato, who has the Rinnegan point. Even if Orochimaru is stronger, he can still be stronger than Nagato at that time. Naraku thought in his heart point, but he soon realized that he was wrong. Although he didn't know whether Orochimaru had the strength to surpass Nagato, someone who could surpass Nagato's strength appeared. Hiss. Suddenly, several huge pythons appeared behind Orochimaru. The pythons opened their mouths and kept spitting out letters. Thunder Arrow. In response, Naraku stretched his right hand forward, and in an instant, Thunder Attribute Chakra surged out, and then formed a series of thunder arrows in the air. Chapter 325. Someone stronger than Nagato is coming. Noisy, noisy, noisy. In the air, hundreds of thunder arrows composed of thunder and lightning made a flashing sound of electricity. Call out, call out, call out. The next moment, all these thunder arrows tore through the air and rushed forward. The lightning arrows were extremely fast, and they had arrived in front of Orochimaru almost in the blink of an eye. Earth escape, earth formation wall. After Orochimaru quickly formed seals with his hands, he slapped the ground with one hand. Then, the ground shook for an instant, and an earth wall blocked his front. Boom, boom, boom. The thunder arrows hit the earth wall, causing violent tremors. That is. Suddenly, an exclamation came from Jiraiya's mouth. At this time, his eyes fell on the giant snakes behind Orochimaru. Naraku and Kakashi were also caught in the sight. Several giant snakes were seen opening their mouths suddenly, and something like a coffin was spit out from their mouths. The art of reincarnation from dirty soil. Naruto secretly thought in his heart, and then he narrowed his eyes slightly. His pupil power exploded instantly, his eyes turned red instantly, and the pattern of a golden six-pointed star appeared in the scarlet pupils. Swish, swish. The next moment, two figures appeared behind Orochimaru at the same time. It was Kakashi and Naraku. Chakra surged in Naraku's hand, and a blue ball of light appeared in his hand, and then he held the Rasengan and directly bombarded one of the pythons on the other side. Kakashi's body flashed with blue light, and his silver sword was covered with blue arcs. He quickly exerted force with his hands and struck a python with the same knife. Boom, boom. In an instant, the two pythons that were hit turned into two huge clouds of smoke, but there was more than one python, and two more had successfully spit out the coffin. At this time, a coffin appeared in front of Naraku and Kakashi. Be prepared to face the wrath of our ancestors, nephew. At this time, the corners of Orochimaru's mouth curled up into a sneer, and then he raised his hands to form a mark. Boom, boom. The next moment, both sides of the coffin began to tremble at the same time, and the lid that sealed the coffin visible to the naked eye began to slowly lower. Then two familiar figures appeared in front of Naraku at the same time. It's really the two of them. Looking at the familiar, yet unfamiliar powerful figure in front of him, a trace of solemnity flashed across Naraku's face. He has long black hair and wears a black tight-fitting suit with red laminated armor on the outside. The red armor on his left shoulder has the symbol of the Thousand Hands clan tattooed on it. Yes, standing in front of Naraku at this time was the first Hokage known as the God of Ninja, Senju Hashirama. Despair, despair. The first generation stepped out of the coffin, and an extremely powerful aura suddenly burst out from his body. Naraku noticed that the first generation's eyes were dull at this time, and he had obviously lost consciousness and was controlled by Orochimaru. On the other side, the person who appeared in front of Kakashi was none other than the second generation. It is indeed these two adults, Jiraiya said with a heavy look on his face at this time, but soon anger rose in his heart. Orochimaru, you will definitely pay the price for blaspheming the souls of our ancestors like this. Jiraiya's aura surged. He quickly formed seals with his hands and spit out a ball of hot red flames towards Orochimaru. Fire escape, dragon fire bullet. Flames like cannonballs quickly blasted in the direction of Orochimaru. For Jiraiya, the first and second generations were not only the ancestors of the village, but also Tsunade's closest relatives. Orochimaru's behavior completely angered him. The moment Jiraiya took action, Kakashi and the second generation in front of him were also fighting. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of swords clashing could be heard endlessly. At this moment, the second generation held a sharp long sword in his hand, which was the Kusanagi sword. Everyone knows that the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, is good at water escape, and is even known as the man who signed a contract with the sea, but few people know that he is also extremely good at swordsmanship. His former sword, the Thunder God sword, was also very popular for a while. The collision between the sword and the sword created a burst of dazzling sparks. Soon, under the control of Kakashi, he and the second generation rushed to the battlefield in another direction. At this time, Naraku also fought against the first generation. Boom, boom, boom. Visible to the naked eye, bursts of sonic booms erupted on the field, and two figures kept colliding with each other, but then separated quickly. It was Naraku and showed a point. I have always been very curious about the first generation Naraku, wondering why the opponent has such strong strength, and why his own chakra is so large. Now because of Orochimaru, his chance has come. This strange power is indeed much stronger than Sister Tsunade. Feeling the pain coming from his body, the fighting spirit in Naraku's eyes became stronger and stronger. He had just had a simple physical battle with the first generation, and he had already felt how powerful the opponent was. Even when he was controlled, and his strength was less than 100%, the first generation's physical skills were still no worse than his own. Even in the use of strange power, Naraku is not as proficient as the first generation. Naraku didn't find it strange that the first generation could use strange power. Tsunade told him that the strange power was originally passed down to her by the first generation. It would be strange if the first generation didn't do it. Looking at it this way, there really is someone stronger than Nagato. Naraku secretly thought to himself, and then he turned his head and glanced at Jiraiya and Orochimaru, who were already engaged in a fierce battle. Obviously, Orochimaru's strength is now far ahead of Jiraiya, but perhaps because he needs to be distracted from controlling the first and second generations, he is not concentrating on fighting Jiraiya at this time. Naraku could see that Orochimaru was just dealing with Jiraiya, and his eyes drifted towards the first generation who was fighting him from time to time. Are you worried that the first generation will escape its control? Naraku thought to himself. Sure enough, it's not that easy to control the first generation god. At this time, a plan arose in Naraku's heart. Looking at the first generation with dull eyes in front of him, Naraku's aura became stronger and stronger. Then, let us completely let go and have a big fight. Boom. Chakra instantly enveloped the whole body, and Naraku punched the first generation, and the huge force made his body continue to retreat. Boom. But soon, the first generation counterattacked. Blue light surged from his body, and a powerful explosive force burst out from him. Almost instantly, Naraku felt a powerful impact. He took 2 steps back slightly. At this moment, the first generation had already raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. Seeing this, Naraku also raised his hands and completed the seal faster than him. Would escape with Dragon's technique. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.